Hello, you. My name's Jonti.
And I'm Brandon, also known as B Squared, and this is This Week in Ink.
We'll be wading through the Inklands to bring you the news and the views on all things Lorcana.
Coming up, we have our regular segments, Main Street Market Watch, and You Made Me Ink.
And we'll be discussing the latest topics and taking opinions from the live chat.
Hello live chat! Jonti, it's here! We finally have them. Comprehensive rules. We've been waiting, I feel like, for forever, asking for this.
Yeah. Considering, and I don't know if we didn't mention this at the time, we... Star Wars Unlimited came with them out the gate recently.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I think that kind of made people, you're able to show people that, look, like this can happen. Like when the game launches.
Yeah.
So yeah, with about sort of 6 or 7 months under its belt, it is nice to have them. And because of that, we thought we'd sort of dedicate a show to them. We have some other stuff to talk about as well, though, right? But we felt like it was a big enough topic to sort of dive into, and also a big enough topic to do something that we've threatened for a while now, which is bring on some guests. So we do have our first guest, which is why the stream looks a bit different. You'll notice that it now looks like everybody else who streams, because this is a bit of software you can get that lets you stream. And whilst it is quite nice to be able to do stuff a little bit more bespoke, which is what we were doing beforehand, this software just makes it very easy to bring guests in and out. He says. As we try and do it, we'll bring in our guest today. His name is Joe. You'll know him as Googly Glimmers. He's been everywhere tonight, and I think if I click that, he just turns up.
He's just here. Here
I am.
Technology.
That was so easy.
Oh, we've been making this so difficult for ourselves for the last 20 episodes.
Yeah, I usually have about 6 different tabs and browsers open to keep up with everything, and it's just so everything's simplified. It's all just right here. Yeah,
so it was charmingly bespoke before.
It's a very gentle way.
He said it was noticeable.
I mean, I still miss Brandon's blue eyebrows from the very first stream.
Yeah. That when you just got blue splooge on your face.
I didn't even know it was happening either because I couldn't see it on our end. We were in a Discord call until people started commenting about it.
But there we go. Yeah. So Joe, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For those of you watching who don't know, Joe, tell us about yourself. Who are you? Why are you here?
Who is Joe?
Who am I? That's a big question. No, I am known as Googly Glimmers because I stick googly eyes on Lorcana cards and I post them on the internet. And then after I was doing that for a while, I was like, hey, what about this actual game business? I started to get I started to follow the rules discussions and things and start to learn about where the rulings were getting posted in the Discord and stuff by Steve, and keeping track of all that stuff. Kind of, I don't know, it scratched an itch in my brain, in my ADHD brain, and I just started to fall down the rabbit hole of learning all of the rules. And
so, you kind of answered my question there, because my first question was going to be, is this how you found yourself interested in other games previously? Are you a rules guy in other stuff you've played?
Yeah. I mean, especially for D&D, particularly.
Okay.
And then we just did a little Daggerheart playtest, which is another RPG, and
yeah.
I was
knows
like,
all about that.
just
Yes, I love Daggerheart.
absorbed the whole rules document for that as well.
That's interesting, because I found myself getting really into the rules side of Lorcana, and I mean from a professional level, I kind of have to be relatively up on the games that we deal with in the store. But I have found myself getting deeper into the Lorcana rules than any other game. But with D&D, I'm the complete opposite. The rule set for D&D is the duct tape that holds improv together. I have got the rule cool is 98% of what I do at a D&D table. I'm just like, yeah, roll dice. If it's high enough, you can do it. I don't care. Yeah, so very much not that way in D&D. But yes, I found myself getting kind of swept up in the Lorcana rules. And I think the reason they really spoke to me more than other games is that the rule set itself is relatively simple, I think, but the fact that the game itself doesn't have many what's the best way of putting this? The phases of the game can be in any order you like them to be. There's no sort of, this is when you challenge, this is when you quest, and the fact that you can do those in so many different orders, and really that's the sort of skill set that makes sort of players separate. Personally, I think is figuring out the most optimal order to do stuff on your board. And now we've got better explanations of things like the bag that we'll go into a moment. I think that gives you an even another level then of just figuring out how to pull stuff out the bag properly.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Yeah. So yeah, the rules document dropped. We've all read it. Brandon?
Oh, were we supposed to
read it? It's so funny. I have a real appreciation for people like Joe and you, Jonti, who actually read and digest the rules, because I just can't. Every time that I open a rules thread in one of the Discords, it all just I feel like everything gets stuck somewhere in my head, and I'm just like, I can't be bothered with this, and I just move on to something else. I know the bare minimum to get by in a game, and then if there's any card interactions, it's oop, this isn't intuitive, that I'm just like, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know.
Jonti's feeling more and more confident about a segment that y'all can be doing later.
I told win one.
He told me about this, and I'm like, I told him, I said, I'm gonna embarrass myself because I have no idea. Earlier in the Lumineer stream, when you said that the challenge has 18 segments to it, I'm cooked. I'm out. I'm gonna make it through this.
The question does involve challenging too.
Okay, great.
So I mean, that's probably a great point to go into, because this is a 30-page document, and I'm not going to sit and go through it page by page. But that challenging, for instance, because I think that's a good example of what a document like this has to look like, and what somebody who's interested in the rules, I don't want to just say judge, because I don't think that's a fair, people in general should have a good idea of what's going on with the rules, but for somebody who really wants to have a real sort of step-by-step guide as to what's happening, this is what these documents have to look like. So I'll should be able to do that, and we get to a document that looks like it, okay, and then I should be able to click here and go to this, and this should show us the challenge steps.
4.3.1 Let's see if I'm right.
That's way off. Oh, number 9 of this says number 4, so his number...
Nope, not 4.3.1.
There we go.
There it is.
4.3.5 is challenge.
I was close.
It was pretty close. Off the top of your head, that was pretty close. So there are 18 subpoints describing the sort of sequence of a challenge, but a lot of these are okay. So step 1, for instance, sending a character into a challenge is a turn action. Only characters can challenge. Sure, that I don't necessarily think that's a step of the challenge process. That's just
I knew that much.
Pointing out, yeah. A character sent into a challenge is known as a challenging character, and the opposing character is being challenged. Both are considered to be in a challenge. Characters can challenge locations. For that, we'll look at later. So what's interesting here, I think, then, is that we already knew that to be challenging and to be challenged was different. Obviously, there's cards from right back from set 1, right? That's we already knew that being challenged was the receiver, right? Things like Cruella de Vil and stuff like that. One thing it doesn't point out here, though, which I feel like it should do, is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but there is a difference between being in a challenge and an action happening during a challenge.
Yes.
Right.
Well, there's only the two characters directly involved in a challenge count as in a challenge. Yep.
But for instance, if somebody died due to let me think of an example of something that happens within a challenge.
Aladdin Heroic Outlaw, something like that. Is that what you're getting at, when they're banished during the challenge and their effect happens?
During a challenge. Yeah, they don't necessarily have to be one of the two characters that are in a challenge, right?
Oh, okay.
Right.
Lyle Tiberius Rourke, I think, is one of those.
Yeah, just so there is a difference between during Tinkerbell, the 2 damage off Tinkerbell finishing something off, they would technically die during a challenge.
During, yes, but not in.
But not in. So I feel like that should be here. I mean, it might be somewhere else.
Died during a challenge, but not in a challenge.
It's kind of explained a little bit in one of the examples at the end of
it is sort of covered later, yeah. Only the challenging character and the character being challenged are in the challenge. If an ability or an effect refers to a character in a challenge, it's referring to one of those two. To challenge, the active player follows the steps listed here in order. So, I mean, that's not really a step. That's saying that the next steps are steps. So we've already shaved it down to 16.
It is an exaggeration. There are 18 rules around challenging, kind of, sort of.
But it's very important to know, what phases things happen within that second of a thing during the game, right? Like literally,
especially for challenges, because challenges are the only kind of action in Lorcana that have 2 places where you can resolve effects.
Mm-hmm. So that is on declaring the challenge. And
then after resolving damage,
once the challenge damage has happened, so there, that's that one makes me laugh. 4, 3, 5, 9, 5th, the challenge occurs. That is it. Now, there's very little at the moment in this document, although it probably wouldn't be in this document. It would most likely be in like a play corrections document, as to when. For want of a better technical term, takesies backsies. there's very little at the moment as to how far down these lists here can I get before saying, actually, can I just not do that?
That's actually what I'd love to know, because that's basically the extent that I wanted to know about the rules, because as somebody who participates in competitive play, I want to know exactly how I need to be playing out my actions and exactly in what order they need to be done or how things resolve, so that I know either when my opponent's in the wrong and they try to take something back and I'm like, nope, sorry, you can't do that, that's against the rules, or when I know I've gone too far and I can't take something back.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing when you can. Now, I don't think the document necessarily told us anything that we were all doing wrong. The only one that really comes to mind is the
I was doing wrong.
The only thing that really stuck out to me was that you play the card before paying its ink cost.
You
reveal the card?
Declare and reveal the card, yeah.
You reveal the card before paying its ink cost.
Then you pay, then it's played.
Then it's played, yes. Sorry, that's what I meant to say. But at the moment, normally 9 times out of 10, well, maybe even higher than that, I see people go, I'm going to pay 3 and then show it, Mm-hmm. So, again, it's difficult to really know in a game without off-turn interaction how much those minutiae of laying things out are going to really matter, but you've always got to be on top of it, just in case you have an opponent who's just going to call a judge for that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I mean, that's the exact scenario that I wanted to know about, because that's usually when it happens, right? You go to play a card, then you go, oh no, actually, but by that point, I've usually already at least revealed the card. So then it's after I've revealed it, even if I haven't paid for it yet, or if I paid for it and then revealed it and did it in the wrong order, is it too late to take the card back? Because I know in other games, and in chess, it's sort of when you take your hand off the piece, right? When you take your hand off the card, then it's usually considered played. And at that point, it's kind of like, no, you already played it. You can't take it back. But plenty of times I've been, even in like at league games or in tournament games, I've like set a card on the table and I've very slowly put it down, trying not to waste time, but still trying to think as fast as I can about whether or not I want to play this card before I let go of it and then continue with my play. But it's like, if I've already revealed the card, does that mean I still have to play it? Can I take that back? Like, I don't know what the rules are around that, or even if we have the rules around it, but I think it's important to know for tournament play, just in case, like Jonti said, if somebody wants to call a judge on it, if I decide I do want to take something back.
And I expect a lot of that sort of stuff. It shouldn't necessarily be in this document. They should be in a play correction guide, honestly, because this document is telling you how the game works. There is a second document that tells you what happens if you do that wrong, if that makes sense. So the main thing I found from this document was me wanting the play correction guide to be really fleshed out now based on this. But Joe, what were the sort of big takeaways for you having read through this?
Well, the challenges is one of them. Having all of that laid out is a big thing, and it's important. And it did answer a couple of questions that we had about some like revealed Ursula's Return cards. Trying really hard not to say Ursula's Revenge.
Oh yeah, don't worry about it. We call it Ursula's Revenge here. It's fine.
Yeah,
you're in company.
Another thing is the end of turn phase. I don't think that until this came out, we didn't know there was an official end of turn phase that had anything that happened in it.
Well, there were a couple of cards that mentioned at the end of your turn.
Yes,
right,
for sure.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of just assumed they just happened at the end of your turn.
Yeah.
Yes, to say that there is now a phase where a couple of things get checked, I suppose, is new. Yeah. And
we have some interesting questions around that whole phase too.
Like it feels like it's one of the sections that's a little less fleshed out than it perhaps wants to be. Here, end of turn phase. So end of turn, there must be no abilities currently waiting to resolve. The active player declares the end of their turn, and this creates the start of the end of turn phase. Cool. Effects that would end at the end of your turn also includes things this turn. Effects that would occur at the end of turn or at the end of your turn, and abilities that are triggered by those effects are added to the bag, and then clean up all player revolve effects that are in the bag. Once the bag is empty, no effects remain. What I find really interesting about this is effects that would occur at the end of the turn and at the end of your turn. Does that are they both on cards yet? Like, I don't understand why any card needs to say at the end of your turn in a game that you can only play stuff on your turn. Surely they could all just say at the end of the turn.
You could have cards that triggered on both players' turns. At the end of both players' turns. I don't think we have any of those, but you could.
At the end of but that's what I mean. They could say at the end of the turn. That's what I mean. I don't know why a card ever needs to say at the end of your turn.
Well, like,
I suppose unless it's something you only want to happen on your turn, right? Okay.
Yeah, like Bernard, you can't use him to ready a character at the end of your opponent's.
At the end of your opponent's turn, right? Okay, ignore me then. But yeah, the end of turn phase is now a thing.
Yeah, but the interesting question there is we don't know if 4.4.1.1 and 4.4.1.2 are consecutive or if they're just a list that happens simultaneously, or if that matters, and whether the triggered effects will just resolve later anyway because they happen in the cleanup phase or the cleanup step. Sorry. And then we also don't know how this interacts with conditions like during your turn, which is not something that ends. It's just something that is true or not.
Yes, because technically during your turn is still applicable at the end of turn phase. So
even after the effects that end at the end of your turn have ended, it is still your turn.
It's still your turn until everything is done, until
the bag is empty. Yeah.
They
And
start
that's
going. Yes,
and those aren't like in the bag, so you're not resolving effects going away, right?
Yeah,
for the during.
Yeah.
So the example I think I saw you mentioned on Twitter the other day was giving giving Smee resist?
Giving Smee resist from Lithos.
From something that ends at the end of turn. Yeah, Lithos, the Titan, gives resist until end of turn. So if Smee had 2 damage on him and he was exerted with no pirate out, would Smee survive the turn, basically? And the answer is no, right? Because
the
Lithos
answer is almost certainly no.
But we genuinely don't
know.
There is I personally think that it's pretty clear that the triggers will resolve after the effects end. But there are those who disagree.
because the effect from Lithos ending isn't a triggered effect. That's not something that goes in the bag. The bag we'll get onto in a moment. So anything that does happen at the same time that is a triggered effect, such as the damage hitting Smee, does go in the bag and therefore resolves after the end of the turn phase.
Moves to clean up.
Moves. So
just looking at the 4.4.1.1 and 4.4.1.2, I see where you're. I agree with you, Joe, that like the resist effect would end at the end of your turn, and then the Smee thing that would go into a bag happens afterwards, right?
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah,
but also because you never know.
Yeah, because also that isn't very fun, and a lot of the time where the rule has been a little grey, it's sometimes aired on the more fun thing as opposed to the perhaps more grammatically correct or the more sort of rules based corrections. So,
so my thing is that if you allow those effects to persist until the actual for surezies, no take backsies end of your turn, and something triggers off of that effect going away, now you've got triggers in nobody's turn.
In no man's land.
Yeah. So I don't think they'll let that happen. I don't think they want to start a whole new in between turns phase.
No, because that gets even more messy then.
After the cleanup phase, after the end of turn phase.
Yes, there is a passing phase before start of turn. Yeah, and then I think the other main sort of thing to mention in the article is the bag, which I think a lot of people were quite surprised about. But maybe
I was stunned by how many content creators I saw go, the bag.
Yeah, it's kind of shocked me as well. The bag has been referred to as the bag for perhaps
forever.
6 months or so.
Yeah. I'm slightly surprised that it ended up sort of just actually officially being called the bag.
Same. That was the thing.
That was kind of the only thing that shocked me. But we've had the analogy of marbles in a bag from Steve and other members of the team for quite a long time now. But again, some people aren't as into this sort of stuff as others, so it's fine. But yes, it did quite surprise me as how many people, and also how many people I have seen tell other people, oh, it's basically the stack. And I'm like, no, man, it's actually the almost the opposite of the stack, actually.
Yeah.
Camille says, I was confused by what they meant by the bag. Luckily, Camille, Joe is going to very briefly.
Here comes the
but incredibly concisely and correctly tell you what it is.
The bag is a special zone where only triggered ability effects can go. So whenever something triggers while you're doing something else, like you just killed a Mufasa, banished. You just banished a Mufasa, so his ability goes off. That goes in the bag. And then as soon as you're done with the thing you're already doing, you can start grabbing anything you want out of the bag and resolve that next. So most of the time, it's probably going to be one thing at a time. Most of the time, you're not going to have a choice because it's just one thing in the bag. But if you do end up with more than one thing in the bag at the same time, that's when it gets really interesting and fun, and you can start picking and choosing what you do, and you can start doing crazy things like playing 3 Stitch Rockstars and drawing 6 cards,
which we don't mind.
Elliot
says, "What if all of that, assuming we're talking about the end of turn phase stuff, goes into the bag, and you get to decide if Litho's ability ends or Smee's damage is dealt first?" So the bag is, as Joe says, specifically just for triggered actions, and Litho's ability ending is not a trigger.
Yep. So like that's ability cards don't go in the bag. Songs don't go in the bag. It's just triggered effects.
It's just triggered effects. I perhaps wonder if they've done themselves a little disservice by referring to the bag as a zone and listing it alongside all of the other zones where cards go.
Yeah, maybe.
For a brief second, when reading through the rules for the first time, I was like, wait, is there a literal like bag? Are we supposed to have tokens?
There is.
All those Etsy creators got so excited for a minute. It's like, oh, we're going to make some bags.
Point in the rules, I can't remember exactly which bullet point it is, but there is a point where they talk about putting I can't remember what it is, but they talk about putting some kind of card in the bag.
I think there is a line that says card in a bag, and I'm like, I think that's wrong.
It is. It's in the document.
Yeah. So I don't have that to hand, unfortunately, but one of the main reasons I wanted to bring you on today is that you have sort of spearheaded a community response to these rules, which seems to have been taken relatively positively from the team.
Yeah.
Or at least they're pretending.
Steve went ahead and I hope they're not pretending. I would be very upset. No, Steve pinned it in the official rules channel, the Google document that I put together.
Okay, that's awesome.
And we actually, he DM'd me kind of out of the blue today.
I was like, who the fuck Discord. Do you think you are?
Could you please quit? I was enough to do.
I was terrified when it popped up. But no, he was real nice about it, and thanked me for putting it together and said it's really useful, and they are using it to help revise
to at least start
the next set.
Yeah,
and they've offered you a job.
Unfortunately not.
I think we have to bear in mind that this is a living document and will constantly get tweaked, and
yes, for sure, that's something that he said.
Yeah, I mean, of course, like all of these documents are from games, and they're always going to get tweaked and found. And to be honest with you, reading over it, I found out half a dozen things that I sort of took issue with, and you'd picked all of them up on the document. A lot of them were just grammar things. Honestly, there's needs to be there's not a complete set of quotation marks around some things, and there's a couple where there's just words missing from the end of sentences and stuff. So obviously, all that sort of stuff just gets picked up with a proofread. The only one I think I noticed with like actual where the rules seemed wrong was that at some point it does mention cards going into the bag, and I don't quite get that. It just seems to be an issue.
It is definitely not correct, because it says later on. It says in the bag section, like I think you have it on the screen right now.
Yeah,
only abilities can exist in the bag.
Yeah,
which is about as clear as you can get.
Yes, yeah. The only other one I really saw people make a lot of reference to was the definition of an opponent at quite the beginning of the documents.
I'm so tired of talking about this. people, so many people have brought it up in the rules channel on the HQ and on the official Discord and been like, "What about this?" And it's like, it's obviously a mistake. If somebody raises their hand when you're judging a tournament or league or whatever and says, "Hey, I can attack my friend or my opponent's," they can't say opponent. I can.
Well, they can. Well, they can if they're.
Oh no, they can. That's right.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So I can attack my opponent's Cusco with fire the cannons because I'm not his opponent right now. You just say, "Shut up and play the game."
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what we're referring to here, the 1.4, the definition of an opponent, anyone the active player is playing against counts as an opponent. So any thing that ward is most prevalent, but then also there's curse merfolk, there's opponent discards a card. Basically they're all negated by this line here, which is obviously
I see
just
now.
incorrect, or it just needs to be
just
fleshed
wrong.
out. Really, yeah, it's just
what I said to the guy who brought it up today was, if you said that to me in a tournament, what I'm going to do is say, you're the active player, so the non-active player has no opponent, so he automatically gets a match win because you didn't show up.
There you go. That's great. I have to remember that. Yeah, that's really good. So yeah, they were the only real things I found from the document. It didn't particularly surprise me. I feel like it needs fleshing out quite a bit. I feel like it's a relatively bare bones document, honestly.
Yeah, but there's quite a lot of stuff missing.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about then and too?
Yes.
Oh yes,
I was getting there.
For this part.
Before we do that, what is there anything particular that or just area of the game or interaction in the game that just you feel just isn't covered?
There's quite a few parts of like resolving abilities that are like conspicuously missing. The definition of another is kind of an important one. We got a whole section on this part. There's nothing. Okay, there's how we already know when you do like a whole new world, you discard and draw, then your next opponent discards and draws, then the next one if there's a multiplayer game until it comes back to you, right? That is only defined in the rules document for multiplayer games of 3 or more. It doesn't tell you how to resolve action cards that affect both players in a 2-player game. Obviously, you can assume and you can infer from the multiplayer section, but that is something that's conspicuously missing. And in the case of A Whole New World, it's kind of important because that can make you lose the game.
Yeah. So do we not? Is that not just covered under the fact that active player resolves first?
No, because that is only addressed as abilities from the bag elsewhere in the document, which, as we've just discussed,
in Whole New World,
cards don't go in the bag. Or
I see.
Action abilities, action effects don't go in the bag.
Right.
Yeah, you just play it and it happens.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, so there needs to be a point that says all abilities are resolved active player first, basically.
Right. Something like that. There's also absolutely nothing in the rules document about moving damage counters.
Oh.
So it's a good thing. I hope everybody hung on to their little rules inserts.
That's why they printed. That's why they put them in every pack, because they knew they weren't going to be in the document. We've given you all these. That's great.
You should know this already. Doesn't need to be in there.
So the last thing I wanted to mention then about these documents, before we just have a general talk about rules in general, is my inability to understand the concept of A then B. I watched back that clip to make sure I didn't sound like a complete idiot. I don't think I sound like a complete idiot. I did sound like I maybe had a mild stroke during this. So basically, this is talking about the clauses of abilities on a card. Each clause is separated by a period, although some clauses have multiple effects within them, and the order in their resolution or how they're resolved is affected by the joining word. Is that right? The joining word. What would you call that, Joe? As a teacher, there's a term for it, isn't there?
Technically, it's a conjunction.
A conjunction is the word.
In the rules, they call it the intervening word. So.
Intervening word, but yes, it is the conjunction. Depending on the conjunction they've used, depending on how how all or some of the clauses are resolved. And this is so different to Magic, which is the only other game TCG that I have a fairly decent knowledge of the rules, that I just are really struggling to push. I'm fine with the stack. I can push the stack out of my head and put the bag in my head. That's fine. But this, yeah, I'm really struggling with this. So am I just an idiot?
I mean, I don't know how it works in Magic, so I can't speak to how different it is and how.
So in Magic, if a card says A then B, you only do B if A has happened.
Okay, so it's like 2 instead.
A to
or Lorcana has 2.
Must complete the first part. If they're unable to, they can't perform. Yes. Yeah.
I've struggled with Elsa specifically and that for a long time. Because hers, I think, is just then, right? So I know you don't have to do the first part.
Elsa's is 2 effects. It's 2 clauses.
Oh, no, it's just 2 clauses. Yeah.
Exert 2 things.
They can't
ready. Is there a full stop there, or is it a comma?
It's a full stop.
It's a full stop. So they are 2 different things. I mean, the other issue with Elsa is that you're able to exerted characters.
No, you're not able to exert exerted characters.
You're not able to?
No, you're allowed to. You can choose them, but they don't exert. They just sit there.
All right, the semantics, sure. You can choose.
This is what we're here to talk about. We are here to have a semantic discussion.
You check if you can exert them, and then when they can't, you just move on, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But
okay, so it doesn't really matter for exerting, but it does matter for readying, right? Because we have a character that will earn you lore when they ready.
Yeah.
If you have 2 other characters out. So if you try to ready Christopher Robin when he's already ready, I hate having to say that.
I love it.
He doesn't ready, and you don't get that lore.
Right.
It just goes no.
So it can be important. I just feel like that could be worded neater. So
there are lots of things that could be worded neater.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But that could be worded neater, because that was a big point of contention with a lot of people when before this document came out. I would have judge calls around it. Like, he's saying he can exert my Elsa, my whatever, but it's already exerted. And I found it very difficult to explain. He can, and the reason is because on the Discord, the guy who made the game said. So so it's nice to kind of have it a little bit more spelled out, but I still feel like the wording should be like you may exert up to 2 characters. Those characters can't ready. Would that?
Well, no, because then if you're saying you're not choosing them to exert, then you didn't choose them to not ready either.
Choose 2 characters. You may exert them.
There you go.
That's how I'm trying to. So I know I shouldn't, but I'm trying to write it as a Magic card. A Magic card.
You may exert them, then they may not ready.
Then yes, yeah. That's how it would be. Something like that. I don't know whether the then would be there, but it'd be something like
use
that in Magic. Yeah.
Because if you do and you can't do both, then neither things happen.
Yeah, because the other one that I had a real issue with at the time was the Moana.
Yeah, I think Moana is probably the card that made me want to learn how the rules actually worked.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is stupid.
This is the Moana that says you may when this character quests, you may ready your other princesses. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. It's still now knowing the rules, the they in that card
I still
refers to the princesses I have readied, not all the. I know that it's all of them. I know it's the princesses that are on my board,
but it feels like it should be the ones.
It reads to me like it means the princesses I chose to ready.
I agree with you. It feels wrong.
Yeah, and I don't love that, and I wonder if it could just be worded. That should say when this character quests, you may ready your other princesses. Your other princesses can't quest this turn.
Yep.
That's
That
how
would be
it
fun.
should be.
Just avoid
read.
pronouns if at all possible.
Yes, yeah. Pronouns are messy in life and in trading card games.
Yep.
Pronouns are messy. It's probably best to ignore them. Okay, so specifically then this A then B. I know I'm going into the weeds here now, and I apologize, but I still don't quite understand it. A then B reads: both effects must be resolved. If one effect can't resolve for any reason, neither effect. Sorry, that's A and B. A then B. Resolve all
God,
effects.
here we go.
Read the right one.
It's a good start, isn't it? Let's see if Sneaky's got this. Choose up to 2 characters. You may exert them. The chosen characters do not ready at the start of your opponent's next turn. I mean that.
There you go. Sneaky's got it.
Yeah, that seems good to me. Cool. All right. A then B. Resolve all effects as much as possible, even if some of the effects can't be resolved. Now, do I try and bring up Ursula on this stream?
We might as well.
This is the only example that we can actually do.
Okay.
With real cards.
Oh, an image in a
is
new
that
tab.
true?
Yes.
How many while he looks this up, how many of those are there in the rules so far where it gives you an example of something, but we can't practically do it in the game right now, but they clarify it anyway?
It's this one, and then it's effects that trigger off of ending effects at the end of the turn.
Okay.
So I think I click this. Oh,
yeah,
good
there you
enough.
go.
Good.
Getting good at this.
It does say mainstream market watch. Ignore that. That's because I've just had to update the market watch screen to show this one instead.
Extremely expensive.
I mean, sure, it is. There you go. There's the market watch. All right. Ursula Revolve. What a deal. When this character sings a song, you may play that song again from your Discord for free, then put it on the bottom of your deck. So, my argument, reading A, then B, and then reading this card, says that I can sing a song with Ursula, choose not to play it again, but still place it on the bottom of my deck.
Which is incorrect.
But now can you tell me why?
So that's actually a different part of the rules. It's a little bit after the part you just had up, but it says anything within the same sentence is the same clause, right? So if you have a may effect, that applies to the whole sentence. So if you choose not to play it again, you are also choosing not to put it on the bottom of your deck.
Right. So do we have okay, so the next point then is there a song in the game? I don't think there is, but is there a song in the game that you couldn't play again?
Okay, so what we could talk about is let's see, what's a song that discards cards?
Whole New World.
Sudden Chill.
No, without draw. Sudden Chill.
Let's do Sudden
Chill. So your opponent has one card in their hand.
Mm-hmm.
You sing Sudden Chill with Ursula.
Mm-hmm.
They discard their last card. Then you realize, oh no, they have Tiana exerted on the board. Now you can't sing that song again. Right?
Okay, yeah.
Or not sing, but you can't play that song.
Play, yeah.
You could still choose to play it again. It just won't. Right? And then it goes to the bottom of the deck. Because you chose to do it, it just couldn't be done. And that is the only example of them.
Does that make sense?
This is why I stay out of the rules chat.
I can see Brandon's glazing a little bit.
Just like
Brandon, this is going to come up 15 times in the Champions.
That happens all the time. How many times have you had a Deceiver of All on board? You've sang Sudden Chill twice, but their Tiana is sat there. Like, I mean, come on. In this meta, that's happening all that. Like, man, that happened to me 4 times today, and I didn't even play Lorcana. Okay, but there's yes, because the second part is a may and therefore a choice. You are the A then B specifically is resolve all effects as much as possible, not necessarily pick and choose what you want to do.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay,
the as much as possible part helps.
Yeah, that's basically it. It's the same. It kind of just applies to everything.
You
if
should be
it's
reading it as Ursula sings, "You may A then B."
Parentheses A then B. It's all
Right.
grouped together.
Play that song from your discard for free. Then put it.
Don't pause. Don't pause in the middle. That confuses it. Say it straight
Everything
through.
you
may
after
play it
May,
again, then put it on the bottom.
everything
Right.
after May is in parentheses.
Okay.
It's all the same thing.
So okay. So at the moment. So yeah, the only example at the moment is Tiana stopping you play it, and therefore the then bit would still happen despite the you are playing the song, but it
goes meh.
You choose to play the song.
But Tiana says you can't play songs.
Yeah, so you can still resolve her effect, right? So Ursula's effect. You resolve Ursula's effect, and then Tiana goes, "You can't do that."
Right.
And then you resolve the rest of Ursula's.
That sounded just like Tiana. That was a really good impression. So, is there any? Because the thing that when I was looking at A then B, which kind of blows my mind a little bit, just because of how different it is past from Magic. Everyone was giving me card examples that. So a lot of them didn't even have the word "then" on them. the big one was like, "Oh, it's just a whole new world." It's like whole new world. I'm like, the word "then" isn't printed on a whole new world. I don't understand that. That's an example. So that's probably the only one I've really had trouble getting my head around. And it's just, sometimes just something doesn't quite click, and the more you try and go over it,
there's
the more
two things that
breaks.
kind of complicate it, right? There's the fact that all of the then effects that we have that are triggered effects are all May abilities. So there's none that you're forced to do, and then you have to figure out how much you can do. You would just choose, right? And then the other thing is the example they chose, there's nothing in the game yet that prevents you from drawing, and there's nothing in the game that prevents you from discarding.
Yes,
so there's nothing in the game that can affect the example they picked.
Yes, well, let me see if I can bring that back up again, because that was the other thing that kind of broke me a little. I completely lost where we are. I think if I just go back to this, it's already there though, isn't it? Yeah. A then B. Resolve all effects as much as possible, even if some of the effects can't be resolved. And then the example is Ransack, which is draw 2, then choose and discard 2. But at the moment, there's nothing in the game that doesn't allow you to draw 2. If you played that card, even with one card in your deck, you would just lose.
You just lose,
right? Because so it's IPA was guilty of repeatedly saying "let the storm rage on." Yeah, it wasn't just you, but there was quite a few people that was just like, there's just no good example of it in the game. So, but that's fine. Again, this document isn't there to give us the rules of the 612 cards we have now. It's the rules of the game, and a lot of this may just be future proofing, right? Like these are the rule sets, the cards we have yet to see. It's a Muppets Christmas Carol kind of thing. It's the cards of past, present, and future.
Rules of Christmas.
Yeah, the rules of cards yet to come. Never says future in the original. So, all right, cool.
Okay, wait. Okay, no, hold on. I'm going back to the Tiana thing because I need Joe to explain something to me. So, somewhere in this rules document, I think. Maybe not. Maybe this is in the corrective play guidelines. If you attempt to do something and then you can't do that, you're supposed to go back to like the most recent legal state of the game, right? Like if I try to play a 5-cost character from hand or something and I only have 4 ink, then it's like, oh, you can't do that. So like it just goes back to your hand. How is the Tiana thing different in that you try to play the song, you try to play Sudden Chill again, and then Tiana says, oh, you actually can't do that because I don't have any cards in hand. So then you just like can't, like, and then you go back and you say, oh, you're right. Okay. So then I can't play this song again.
It's not like you're going back. It's kind of all at once, right? So it's because you're not choosing to play Sudden Chill. You're choosing to resolve Ursula's ability.
Okay.
Right? And then Ursula's ability begins and goes, time to play Sudden Chill. And then Tiana goes, No.
Tiana doesn't let you.
Tiana doesn't let you, right? But it's not you. It's
okay, that makes sense.
Which
so
makes it a little different.
It's resolving Ursula's ability. It's not you playing a card. That makes sense. Do I have that right?
So it's you're not like making a rules error by saying I'm going to play this now. Like if you still had Sudden Chill in hand and you were trying to play it with Tiana on board, then you'd have made a mistake.
So maybe that's the thing. I think people are just saying it wrong. Instead of being like, I play Sudden Chill again, they need to say, and I'll resolve Ursula's ability. This card will be played again.
To play Sudden Chill.
But then IPA says then Sudden Chill would then stay in your discard. But no, that's the whole point with having this topic. All right,
you are resolving.
Let's start again.
Look at the top. I feel like Ursula just sang this conversation, and now we have to do it again.
Multiple times.
Yeah, you might as well just make a short of explaining this scenario, and just upload it somewhere.
I have 100% considered,
like just send people the link.
I don't know if I've not seen other people really hang up on this as much as I have. I just, for some reason, this is the one that's just stuck in my mind, and it's such a weird. Like, it just isn't going to happen, so it doesn't really matter. But I want the precedent. I want to understand the precedent so that if it does matter in the future,
it's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know. Emerald still discards picking up right now.
I've got a bit of metal sticking into my head, which isn't helping.
Oh my god,
it's not the ideal situation.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, this makes my brain hurt. I can't wait for what you have planned.
It's not too bad. I promise.
Sorry.
I only sent Jonti the image. I didn't tell him what the question was going to be, and I had to write down the question for myself so that I wouldn't forget.
Are we
but it's not too hard.
You want to do that?
No.
It's not.
I just the answer while I had my headphones off.
No, he didn't give me the answer.
So for those of you who don't know, then Joe sticks googly eyes onto cards, and it's amazing.
Yes, it's awesome.
You should. Oh, hold on. I have a thing I can press. That says follow you on Twitter. Follow Joe. Look at that. There you go.
There he is.
But one of the other things you've started doing, and I absolutely just cover us up as well. I figuring out the bits. But one thing you have started doing as well is giving these little, like, I think of them as chess puzzles, and for those people who play chess, they're very much like chess puzzles. These ridiculous situations that you would never find yourself in a real game of chess, but they help you understand some of the foundations of the rule sets, so as that one day maybe something might come up that's similar, and you've got a bit of a sort of precedent there. So they're really good fun, and I hope we see lots more.
Yes, please.
I think they're great.
I can't wait for Ursula's return cards to start getting revealed a little more often, so that I can use them. Rochelle.
Yeah. Forget whatever kind of plan you have for revealing cards.
Yeah, remember how you just dropped cards, like midstream?
Oh, the Wild West. The Wild West of Lorcana card reveals. To be fair, I don't have this card open. She could be throwing cards at me right now. No, she hasn't. Okay.
Good check, just to be sure.
You have to try, right? Like, you miss all the shots you don't take. Yeah,
exactly.
So I will say that. So Joe's very kindly put one of these together for us to do. Those are over. Look, never mind. It was good fun while it lasted.
They were nice while they lasted. Yeah.
Joe's put one of these together for us now. I've seen the image, but I genuinely tried not to look at it much. I was like looking at it through one squinted eye on the screen. But like he says, it's just a board state. There's no actual questions or anything. Just so you know, the last one of these that you put on Twitter made me like these were my notes for it. So I can't see myself just looking at this one and being like, oh yeah.
I don't think this one will require notes. It's not.
Oh really?
I don't think so.
I don't care. I'm winning this.
Is this a race? What's happening?
Yeah, 100% is a race.
I'm cooked. Like, this is just. I'm gonna.
The stream's just gonna go silent for 5 minutes. I'm
just waiting on me to figure it out, and then I'll be like, "Oh, I got it," and say the actual wrong thing.
To race against the chat too.
Yeah, I've hid chat. I can't see chat anymore for the thing because I don't
that's
want
a
them
good
to
idea.
spoil it.
Let me move the chat away. All right. Okay, so talk us through this ridiculous board
Oh my
state.
god.
All right. So your opponent has an exerted Cursed Merfolk,
Mhm,
an exerted
Mhm.
Hercules, who has resist. He's the big Floodborn fella.
mhm.
They've got Beast Selfless Protector with 7 damage on it.
So
Oh
close.
my god.
So close to dead. And an Eeyore sitting in the bridge with 1 damage on him.
Mhm.
It is your turn. Your turn has just started, and you have spent all of your ink playing down Shift Mulan onto another Mulan. So she is shifted out.
Mhm.
Okay.
You would like to gain 5 lore this turn, and you're pretty sure that if you do things the right way, you can clear your opponent's board with just Mulan. Just by challenging with Mulan.
Oh, I see. So we're gaining the 5 lore from exerting the other things. Okay.
Yeah, you
See,
don't. I mean, you don't have
know
to, but
I know Joe likes to be tricky sometimes and add stuff that isn't even necessary to the thing. So this whole Cursed Merfolk, Sheriff Nottingham shenanigans going on has me questioning if it even matters.
So, well, I'll ask this then because it does matter. Do we have any cards in our hand? Or is that relevant?
It actually doesn't matter.
Okay. Okay,
we
so
can
that
say
doesn't matter.
no for the sake of the
Okay, so we can ignore the Curse Merfolk discard card and Sheriff of Nottingham, and we can also ignore Cinderella's ability to to challenge ready characters. Okay, so we assume that we don't have a song. Okay, all right. So just shifted. So what you're testing us here then is our knowledge of how Mulan's dealing damage ability is affected by both resist and then selfless protector. So we can. Did you say we can clear their board?
You can.
Okay. All right, chat. Talk amongst yourselves a minute.
Oh, jeez.
Can I press this to make it a bit bigger? Oh, nice. I can see it full screen now. Okay. So Mulan then, she's a 2/6, but when she's shifted, she gets +3. So she's a 5.
Right. She's a 5/6 right now.
Maybe we should work together.
Yeah, I think maybe we will.
I'm going to have to talk this out. Otherwise, I'm just going to stare at the screen. Okay. So my 2 immediate thoughts are like, we can either challenge Hercules or challenge Cursed Merfolk. Considering the fact that Googly said it doesn't matter how many cards we have in hand or that we have any cards in hand, I'm going to assume that challenging the Cursed Merfolk so that we can discard a card and then deal a damage with Sheriff of Nottingham probably doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking we have to challenge Hercules because we can banish Hercules with Mulan if we just challenge him. Unless I'm about to flub all of this, because then when I move into that, I'm like, okay, we challenge Hercules. I know how Mulan works because of resist. The damage is done after resist. So we're only doing 3 damage to Hercules.
Uh-huh.
When damage is dealt to Hercules, then Beast triggers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Beast says, whenever one of your characters would be dealt damage, put that many damage counters on this character instead. So then 3 damage counters go on to Beast, banishing Beast, and then I have no idea what happens because that's as far as I got.
Is damage not
giving
dealt?
Some bonus points to Rochelle in the chat.
Is damage not dealt like? So say you deal 3 damage to something, all 3 would move to Beast. It's not like the first one moves, it kills Beast, and the other 2 stay, right? Because that's the only way
That
I
is
can
correct.
see.
I don't think. Yeah. I think it's just all at once.
3.
Yeah.
Huh.
So then, okay, hold on. During your turn, whenever this character deals damage to another character in a challenge, I feel like damage was dealt to Hercules, and then it got moved to Beast. So no.
Nope. Beast is our replacement effect, so it interrupts.
I hate this. Deal the same amount of damage up to 2 other chosen characters. and we're only on.
There's 3. We have to use the sheriff's ping. We do use the sheriff's ping. It doesn't matter what's in our hand at the moment. We're going to draw a card off Queen of Hearts. So we can, whatever that is, we can discard to Merfolk.
I just
Because
completely.
Queen of Hearts is going to make us draw a card from the Mulan. Okay, all right. So we have a card in hand now.
Okay.
Now I think
Ping goes to the
to
beast.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And so we swing in to
Curse Merfolk.
That gives us the whole 5 damage to play with.
Yeah, because so we exert Mulan to challenge Curse Merfolk.
Mm-hmm.
Queen of Hearts and Curse Merfolk happen. The things go into the bag.
Uh-huh.
We take the Queen of Hearts one out of the bag. We draw a card. We take Curse Merfolk out of the bag. Discard that card. Then Sheriff of Nottingham says you discarded a card.
Beast.
Ping Beast.
And then the 5 damage from Merfolk goes over to Hercules and Eeyore.
Yeah.
Is that it?
You did it!
Yeah! Oh, man.
I was like, well, it can't do anything to do with what's in our hand. But then I was like, no, we're going to draw a card from Queen of Hearts. So even if our hand's empty, we can still do it.
Yeah.
That's cool. All right, let me bring the chat back up. I want to see if anyone got it.
I never would have figured that out during a game.
Well, and that's the other thing I said.
I want to just jump in because I don't know who is on the Glimmer Gang account right now, but
probably Teddy.
If you swing into Curse Merfolk and you don't kill Beast with the ping damage, then all of the damage is replaced with placing damage counters, and Mulan does 0 damage.
Yeah.
So then you can't spread damage anywhere with Mulan.
You have to ping Beast off before the
Beast has to die
goes
first.
Everywhere else. Yeah. Let's see. Puzzle.
See, that wasn't too bad.
Rochelle says Queen of Hearts makes you draw a card. Yeah, okay, we got there. You do need a card in hand for it to work. This is
I'll
fun.
probably stick this one on Reddit tomorrow, see what people say.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone watches us, so they'll all know it.
Yeah, okay. Put it on Facebook and watch people argue.
So let's see. Fatal Armor. Sheriff of Nottingham attacks Cursed. Beast takes the damage. Banishes Beast. Draw, discard, deal 1 damage to Cursed. Mulan challenge Hercules.
You can't attack with Sheriff. The challenge was to defeat it with just Mulan.
Yeah, so I mean, in all fairness, just looking at the board state, yes, that would work. But yeah, we were the rules were Mulan can completely clear the board here. Yeah, because otherwise, stuff goes all over the place.
Kinds of things.
Yeah.
I could also have made the challenge. What is the most lore you could get this turn? That would also work.
That yes, because 5. Oh well, now I want to see if I can
I just
quest with Mulan.
Quest with everything.
Well, yeah, most lore, but also clear the board.
Most lore and clear the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Opponent is at 19. What is the most lore you can get on the board and not lose next turn? Mulan's 5 damage into Curse Merfolk, then deal 5 to Hercules or each. Discard from attacking Merfolk. Use the 1 damage to ping from Sheriff to finish Beast. Yeah, you
kind of, but wrong order.
You just have to do it the other order, right? Yeah. And the Queen of Hearts gives you the card. Yeah, but you have to get rid of Beast before the damage moves across. So Mulan going into Merfolk. What does that then put in the bag? Let's just sort of spell it out with the bag then. What at that point, what goes into the bag?
So before any damage is dealt, the trigger from Queen of Hearts and the trigger from Merfolk go in the bag at the same time.
Right. So the would be dealt damage is not a trigger that's happened yet until Merfolk and Queen of Hearts resolves.
Well, would be dealt damage is not a trigger.
Oh, okay.
Because you're talking about Beast, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, damage hasn't been
Beast
dealt
is not
yet.
a trigger.
It's not a trigger. It's a replacement effect.
Yeah. So
right.
Beast's replacement effect is instant.
Right. But
Super
you can now. Not that you would want to here, But does the bag has to be empty before you then move forward, right?
Yes.
So obviously in this situation you don't want the beast thing to happen, but before Merfolk and Queen of Hearts, but you can't make that happen before Merfolk and Queen of Hearts is resolved.
I missed.
Sorry. So Mulan goes into Curse Merfolk. You have a trigger for Merfolk making you discard, Queen of Hearts making you draw.
Yep.
You can't. Not that you would want to, but you can't have Merfolks take damage before those two things have happened.
No, you have to empty the bag before you can move to the damage.
You have to empty the bag. That's what I was just getting at. Yeah.
4.3.5.11.
There you go. The bag's got to be empty.
That's it.
So those two triggers are in the bag. Queen of Hearts drawing a card, Merfolk making you discard a card.
Mm-hmm.
Say you've got 5 cards in your hand, you discard a card with Merfolk. Sheriff of Nottingham's trigger then goes in the bag, whilst the Queen of Hearts one's still in there.
Well, you have to resolve Queen of Hearts first because you're active player. You can't do Curse Merfolk first because it's not your effect.
So even though they both go in the bag at the same time, the active player stuff still is all emptied out before right. So that's what I was getting to.
Because you only have one, so you have to do that one, and then your opponent has one.
But I feel like the bag has a divider.
The bag is blue marbles and red marbles.
I kind of liked picturing it as every player has their own bag, but the rules say you share a bag.
And then all those bags are in a bigger bag.
And it's like my dice bag with little pockets around the side.
Like, well, they're so big open. They're dead trendy at the minute. Those big opening dice bags. Let me try. Okay, so ignoring this example then because I'm getting tied up in it. What I'm trying to explain is the bag must be empty before you move on with the game state. But things coming out of the bag can trigger other effects that then go in the bag before all of those initial ones are resolved.
Yep. So you have to keep emptying.
You keep going, but stuff can keep going in it.
Yep.
Based on stuff happening from stuff coming out. Trying to think of an example. Things like rabbit bouncing and stuff like
we don't have. There are no like triggered ability loops that I'm aware of yet. So we don't have any infinite bags yet.
No. There's definitely like loops in the game, but they're all based on
the way down
and coming down, right?
Yeah, all action based.
But if we like stuff, I'm thinking of things like when a character character leaves the play, it might ability happens. So I can't really think of a good example off the top of my head, but yeah, you can keep triggered abilities can keep adding more triggered abilities into the bag before all of the original triggers have resolved, but the bag must be empty before the game state moves forward.
Yep.
Okay, cool. That was the only thing I wasn't.
Is there? I don't know if this matters or not because I just don't understand the rules to this degree. But say Queen of Hearts isn't in this picture. And we challenge Curse Merfolk, so that's the only thing that triggers the only thing that enters the bag, right? And then, so since it's the only thing, that's the only thing to resolve. You discard a card. I guess it's happening simultaneously. Never mind. So I was going to ask if there's ever a time when it would matter that something is leaving the bag, and so the bag is empty, and then something else like enters the bag as that one's leaving. But I guess if it's happening simultaneously, the bag's never actually empty.
Yeah, because you're always. While you're emptying the bag, you're always resolving something. So if there was nothing new in the bag by the time you got done with whatever you were resolving, that's when you move forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. And then I think you win, man. If you don't win after that,
yeah, it's a pretty great board state you've built.
That's pretty good.
Mulan doesn't even take any damage.
No.
Nope.
No. You got nothing. You just quest out after that, gain 5 lore.
People in the chat are still working through it. Rochelle is
the way it
working on a night off.
Rochelle's helping us out.
Isn't she always? Let's be honest.
Cherry Ping's Beast before Mulan challenge actually resolves. Yeah. Mufasa hitting a Maleficent. The bag
Which
still.
Maleficent?
Yeah, there's a lot
so
of
many of
Maleficents.
them.
I mean, there are multiple Mufasas. I assume what you mean is Mufasa dying pulls a Maleficent off the top of the deck. The bag still has
that does make sense.
That's what I assume they're referring to, as opposed to just
yeah.
a random Mufasa challenging into a random Maleficent.
Yeah, I was like, what Maleficent triggers on challenge?
Yeah. Before you finish resolving Mufasa, the bag still has the Mufasa hitting a Maleficent. The bag still has the Maleficent before you finish resolving Mufasa.
Yeah, because like Mufasa gets banished, then Mufasa says you may reveal the top, or is it you may reveal the top card and then you may play, or is it just reveal the top card and then you may play?
I think it's reveal and you
reveal
may.
And then you may.
Okay, yeah. So like you reveal, may play, may not play. That's your marble going into the bag, right? You do play, that's marble coming out of the bag, but as you're playing Maleficent's ability goes into the bag simultaneously, right?
Yep. Well, kind of. So until the complete rules came out, I always pictured triggered abilities going in the bag the instant they happened, which is technically apparently not how it happens, but it doesn't really make any difference. But apparently what is supposed to happen is it triggers, and then at the end of that ability, whatever you're resolving, then it goes in the bag. So it kind of hangs out outside of the bag for a second.
Oh, so there is a second. There is a second where the bag is just empty. Then, like Mufasa's ability resolves, and then there's nothing in the bag, and then Maleficent's played, and it goes into the bag.
Yeah, kind of, but I don't feel it is, but I don't feel like it's helpful to think about it that way, because you still can't do anything.
And that go into a separate bag. No, there's only one bag.
There's only one bag.
Capital B bag.
Capital B bag.
The definitive article bag.
That's it.
That's awesome. All right. Okay. I feel that was good. I feel like that was a good deep dive into the rules.
Yeah, it'll take me.
Point... Oh, hold on. We're still going.
At what point does
the beast banish? Is that in the bag? Can that be decided by the opponent? No. Once there's enough damage on it, no.
It's a game state check, so it doesn't go in the bag. As soon as there's enough damage on it, it goes poof.
It just goes. But
and all the damage counters on it cease to exist.
Specifically cease to exist. Yeah. So
Thanos,
which I think is the beginning of the beginning of the rule set for moving damage around. Like, it needs to say that they cease to exist for when we do get a rule set regarding moving damage. You know what I mean? Like, I think it has to specify that those damage counters cease to exist, so as that when we do get more rules regarding moving damage, it's not like we can. But before he dies, I move damage off him.
Yeah, you can't trigger a Rapunzel gifted artist off of killing something.
Yeah, exactly.
Something.
Yeah,
Cruella doesn't want to empty the bag.
Cruella doesn't want to empty the bag.
Can't tell if that's a joke or if there's a
movie
card.
reference. It's full of puppies.
Yeah,
because she's
is
using
it a puppy
the bag
bag?
to drown puppies. Is that what we're saying?
There's 99 puppies in the bag. There's actually not, because 99 puppies is an action, and actions don't go into the bag.
So Beast. But then, if anything, so when Beast left, if there was anything on their board that cared about characters leaving play, that would be a triggered ability that then went in the bag. I don't think that actually is at the moment. Is the just sees characters leaving play and cares?
Yeah, you've got well, not necessarily leaving play, but banishing. You've got King Louis.
Oh yeah, Lyle.
Lyle. Yeah.
Lyle, yeah. Okay,
There's a
so if they had it, which they could have, is in the right colors. If they had a Lyle out here, you would lose a law from the beast. But that trigger of losing a law would still happen after the queen drawing. But then the opponent could choose whether you lost a law or discarded a card first, right? Because they would both be triggers from the opponent.
No, you'd have to discard the card to ping the
To
beast in
ping
the first
beast.
place.
Oh, I'm sorry, to ping the beast. Yeah. So at that point the bag is empty. Yeah, because that's Sheriff of Nottingham's ability.
It's empty for a brief moment.
Yeah,
it's empty, and then beast gets banished, and then another marble gets thrown into the bag.
But that would all happen before you did any damage with Mulan.
All of the still the 5 damage going on to Merfolk is still just sat there waiting.
At this point, I think if I were in a tournament, instead of just calling a judge, I'd just be like, "Sure, we'll just move on. It's gonna take too long to figure this out."
I think, well, like I said, this is very much like the chess puzzles. Like these are convoluted board states purposefully designed to make us get into the weeds on this stuff, right? Like that's the point.
That's the fun.
It is. I enjoy it. I enjoy working through these.
Yeah,
but God, if I was judging an event and I was called over and this is what the board looked like, come on, guys.
I would be sweating. I love the puzzles.
You can always shoot me a message on Discord.
Even
like, give me a minute. I know a guy.
Even if a game state like this is likely to never happen or very rarely happen, I think they're still really fun to do because it really helps you look for every possible scenario, which that ability by itself is a great thing to practice just as a competitive player. Like be sure you don't miss anything that you could do to, create a better game state for yourself.
Especially when it comes to things like choosing the order of stuff coming out the bag and how much of a difference that makes. And also here, I mean, there is a very practical application of the damage of Mulan happening after challenged effects, which genuinely could come up and make a difference, right? So
and you've got the interaction with resist, and you've got the interaction with beast as well that you all have to think about. Yeah.
Resist is the big one. So we're right in saying that resist happens. Resist reduces the amount of damage dealt. Is the specific wording. So and I think Mulan's the first card that really cares about that, right? But basically, if Mulan was to hit Hercules, she would only deal 3. So while she would kill Hercules, she's going to be doing less to Eeyore or wherever else she's sending it, assuming the beast isn't there, obviously.
Right. That's it.
That's awesome. All right, cool. So if people enjoyed this and want to see more of them, or just want to see some more light-hearted content of googly eyes stuck on cards, where's the best place they can find you, Joe?
Well, you can find me at Googly Glimmers. There it is over there. Nope, that side down there. Googly Glimmers everywhere. I'm Googly Glimmers on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. Not on Reddit, but that's fine. You don't need to follow me on Reddit.
You can find him though. He's on there. You can find him on Facebook as well. You can see his whole real name on Facebook if you wanted to.
Yeah,
which is a worry, isn't it?
That's true.
We appreciate you coming on, buddy. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me. It was definitely an honor to be your first official guest.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I think it's gone pretty well. And then as soon as we get a revision, we'll have you back on.
We'll bring you back.
Steve did also ask me to say hello to you guys before I go.
Oh, hi, Steve.
Well, hi, Steve, if you're watching.
Cheers, Joe. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Bye.
I think if I click that, he goes away. And it's
wow.
as if it never happened. Look at that.
I'll have to say that was more fun than I was expecting it to be.
what a review of Joe
expecting, well, not Joe. But I was so worried about the challenge. So I'm just like, I don't know how anything works. And I'm just going to sweat bullets. So that was fun, though. That was awesome.
I think it's awesome that, I think they're really good fun. I wouldn't have the first clue about making one of those. Like how they're reverse engineered.
Yeah,
way beyond me.
Yeah.
But no, that's really good, and we appreciate Joe giving up his time for that. We've still got a lot to do, though. We're going to go into our regular sections now. We have a You Made Me Ink, we have a Market Watch, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the 2-game format. I gotta pee. What do you want to do? Do you want to talk about something while I pee?
I mean, can you pull up the You Made Me Ink? Because I'm the one that picked it, so I can talk about that while you go pee.
You can tell everybody why Ursula. Oh, it's
Ursula.
French.
Oh, it's the wrong
language. I don't know why it's French.
It's okay.
Deceiver. We all know what she does. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Okay, so for You Made Me Ink, this week I chose Ursula Deceiver. For anybody who doesn't know what this card does and also doesn't speak French, Ursula says when she's played, your opponent reveals their hand, and you can pick a song card out of their hand and make them discard it, essentially. The reason I picked this as You Made Me Ink is because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I started playing a ton of Emerald Steel discard. It was just everywhere, sort of out of the blue. And it's aggressive, man. Like, they play Cursed Merfolk on turn 1. They play either this on turn 2 or they play Flynn Rider on turn 2. And it's a very aggressive deck. So they're just playing stuff and trying to quest with it. So you feel the need to challenge and remove their board before they gain too much lore and get ahead of you, and you can catch up. And I just kept playing against Emerald Steel, and Ursula was so scary because I was playing a steel deck. I actually have it right here. I was playing I'm about to spill cards everywhere. That's okay. I was playing a Sapphire Steel deck, and I just felt so like, I don't know. I felt very nervous and rushed when Emerald, when they would play the Cursed Merfolk and the Flynn Riders. So to counteract that, I would try to hold cards like Grab Your Sword or hold Let the Storm Rage On, or anything that I could use to banish the smaller characters like Merfolk and Flynn without having to actually challenge them. And it just felt like every single time I got greedy and held a song, they would play an Ursula. It didn't matter if it was turn 2, didn't matter if it was turn 5, didn't matter if it made no sense, like the math didn't work out for me to, have 5 ink the next turn. They just always had an Ursula in hand and would play it and get rid of my Whole New World or get rid of my swords or whatever. And so I had a lot of trouble against this card this weekend, playing it against opponents.
I feel like I play this card and I love it, and I feel like you get a vibe, man. You get a vibe, and you're like, they're about to play a song here, man. This is going to get me value. I think she's an amazing card. For me, like, she's not as impactful, I don't think, as Goat, but she's one of those cards that, like, I don't understand why it's just an uncommon. Like, I feel like if this was a higher rarity,
I'm happy it's an uncommon, because otherwise I think it would be a pretty expensive card. Maybe, I don't know. The super rares and rares are more expensive than most super rares, so I don't know. If it's a super rare, it'd probably be fine. But yeah, I agree. I don't think it's maybe as broken as a card like Fox or Goat, but it's certainly a very impactful card. Mm-hmm. Like, if I know I'm playing against Emerald, I'm not keeping a single song in my opening hand unless I know I can play it on turn. Like, if I'm on the play and I know I can play it on turn 2 or whatever, then I'm never keeping a song in my hand just because of Ursula. It's like they always have it, or if they do have it, you're put further behind by them playing it and discarding than you usually are risking keeping it and then having the benefit of them not actually having it and you being able to play the song.
Yeah. IP Music says, that wasn't what I was expecting. Sorry. There we go. This one says, you just got to play your songs unpredictably. Yeah.
I guess. I don't know.
Throw Grab Your Swords down onto an empty board.
There were even games where, like, they discarded my whole hand. They played everything out of their hand. And I'm playing Sapphire Steel. So, like, I should have the better top decks, especially when I get to, like, 6 or 7 ink. And without fail, I'd draw a card that was, like, Grab Your Sword, or like a song that I couldn't use then, but I knew I could use on the next turn. Yeah. So I just don't play it. And then they draw an Ursula Deceiver and play the Ursula Deceiver and, like, banish the one card that I draw. And I'm just like, how does this happen all the time?
Oh, as is a deep Googly in the chat. The
Sounds like
deep,
walking on Arrakis. That's great.
that's very good songs. Just sliding, throwing them down like, randomly.
Avoiding the squid instead of the worm, I guess, or the octopus.
Yeah,
I just called Ursula a squid.
I think she's an octopode. I think it was a very needed card, and I think it
Yes.
does, I think
Yeah.
a little bit has done what it needed to do, which is just start to take the edge off some of the much stronger songs in the game. But I don't think it's done it too much, right? Like we're still seeing a lot of good songs. I feel like we're seeing less Be Prepared than we used to, but I don't think that is down to her.
I think that's because Ruby Amethyst finally is not just above and beyond a better deck than a lot of the others.
Yeah.
And decks like Ruby Sapphire, that's probably the only other Ruby deck that I can think of right now that's worth playing.
With Ruby, yeah.
Is really, with Ruby, has pretty poor matchups into aggressive decks like these that come out sometimes, and so it's not like the most consistent deck to play. But yeah, I would agree. I would say Ursula right now is doing more work against steel decks than she is.
Yes. Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. That's where she's putting the value in, because you say just any point in the game against steel, there's a good chance you're hitting value. You're putting her down on 2. You're getting rid of one of the early targeted removals. You know, you put her down on 4 or 5. You're getting rid of Whole New World or Swords. So, I think she's great. I love her. IPA says next set when we get the Ursula who won't let you sing. I don't know. I feel like she's not good. That one is not going to be as impactful as this one, honestly. Like
I don't either. Yeah. It's such an expensive in late card that I think by that point in the game, it probably doesn't matter. Yeah. It can shift onto this one, I think, as early as turn 5. I
think it's a shift 5, yeah. So all it's really going to be doing is it's going to be a bit of a tempo loss, because they're going to have to hard cast songs that they really want to play. But you know,
it's like this. I like to think of it as Ursula Deceiver stops your opponent from playing that song entirely.
Yeah.
The new Ursula just keeps them from singing it. Like, it doesn't stop it from happening. And some songs, even if it's a little bit of a tempo loss, like if I still hard cast Grab Your Sword and it clears your board, that's fine, because I can, continue to build.
I think the only song that the like later game really wants to be sung is Whole New World, because you want your lore available.
Yeah, your ink available.
Your ink, available after your hands filled up, obviously. But even then you'd find some. The only answer is to hardcast a Whole New World. Like, that's happening now. You see that.
That happens against Emerald Steel decks when they just discard everything and you draw the wheel and you're like, all I can do is cast this. So you play it for 5 and
hope I don't pull that many songs.
Yeah.
No, and that's a fair one. Even though she's in French, I apologize. I have no idea why she's in French. But there we go. All right, mainstream Archie Watch then. Nothing like super specific.
Oh, she went down.
She's only 1200 now.
Yeah.
Elsa Spirit of Winter, first chapter enchanted, just continues to rock it up. Look at this. Yeah.
I think we're getting back to Gen Con prices. Like,
let's have a look at a larger wheel. We're higher than it's ever been now.
Yeah. And I don't expect it to go down ever. Can you see how many are being sold currently or are up for sale?
Sold 2 yesterday.
So there's 8 listings. There's 8 listings currently.
8 listings right now. Sorry. Yeah.
That's so few.
So lightly played. Who's playing these? I wonder if
crazy. These are all. Not all of them.
I was just saying, I wonder if they've just put lightly played there to kind of cover the fact that it's not mint. You know, like 11.25. shipping included. It wants to be.
If
The
I'm paying
most
shipping
expensive
for a
one.
$1,200 card,
I kind of love the fact there's like $3,000 and $1
plus
shipping.
99 cent shipping. Oh man,
So
that is
near
a
mint. So
PSA 10 though.
the cheapest near mint
It's
ungraded
1,500.
is 1,500. Yeah, so that's a little higher than it was, I think. Yeah.
I think at this point, I'm just buying the first chapter booster pack that I find in the wild if I ever find them. Instead of because I feel like by the time you save up $1,500, this thing's just gonna be even more expensive.
Be 2,000. Can we do? Because it's not. I imagine it's not just her that's creeping up, but she's the most noticeable one, I guess.
They're slowly getting more expensive for sure. Like I think I didn't buy my Stitch Carefree Surfer that long ago, but it wasn't $300 when I bought it. It was about $250, I think.
Yeah. Now again, that has just continued to jump up, mostly from like the middle of March. Weirdly, I don't know what happened then, particularly that's just made them start creeping up. But the Ursula show the same as well, a little bit more specific. Tink. Again,
I'm also
starts to creep up from March.
Tink. Googly. I opened a Tink Giant Fairy just naturally in a box and ended up trading her and a Mickey Artful Rogue for a bunch of singles of the first chapter stuff when they were super expensive. And I'm sure it was the right move back then, but seeing these prices and now that I'm trying to collect the Enchanteds, it hurts to see those prices.
Quite a few lower numbers of listings as well. Some of these are, like single figures of listings of them compared to if we take a look at Inklands for a moment, like, quite a few more of each one, really. I don't think there's any that are particularly low, all sort of in the 30s, 40s, 50s. Yeah. So it's just drying up. And, it's simple as that. It makes sense, right? There's just they've not reprinted it since December, I think, was the sort of last proper reprint. It keeps showing up, but I don't think it's a reprint. I think it's just companies moving stock around, distributors moving stock around. Occasionally, it just sort of pops up a little bit. I know we've been able to get hold of a few bits of first chapter and Rise of the Floodborn since the start of the year, but my rep has literally come out and said, listen, I got 12 boxes here for somebody. They ain't paying for them. Do you want them instead? It's not, the distributor hasn't got any more. They're just moving it around. I'm just going to look at a product for set one, because I know that's been creeping up as well, hasn't it?
We should look at the Lumineer Trove.
Lumineer Trove for first chapter?
The first chapter, yeah.
Let's do that.
It's more expensive than a box.
Oh, wow.
By a decent margin.
What?
Yeah. I have one of those right there.
Yeah, I don't think I kept one. I think, what are the gift sets doing? I've got a gift set.
Gift sets for the first chapter.
Oh, that. First chapter gift set. No, still $70. That's fine. That's rubbish. One day. Yeah, I had a Trove and I was like, I'm ripping it open.
$275 for a first chapter box.
$275. And you know what? That's
$11 a pack, $11.50.
Yeah, but that doesn't really surprise me now with less of it being out there.
No, that's what I'm thinking. Like compared to what they were just initially and what people were paying for them, that's tempting to just buy and hope people,
or just even to sit on. I don't think at this point it's a terrible thing to just sit on. I'd be very surprised if they came out and were like, yeah, we're doing another run of first chapter. It's going out to stores. I'd be really surprised at this point.
I don't think they're doing that either. I would sort of wish they would, only for selfish reasons, in that there would be more Enchanteds that would flood the market. And
I'm not. I've got a surfer from set one, and that's it. And I'm happy with that. And I have 4 of everything else from set one. And I'm like, you know what? They could never print another pack of it, and I'd be happy. But again, for selfish reasons, really, I do think at some point we're going to have to start seeing notable staple reprints. And I think we might do like if you look at the back of that Gateway, it's got a Dragonfire on it. You know, I imagine the Ursula's challenge thing. What's it called? The quest,
Lumineer's quest.
Yeah, probably has some stuff in it, and so it'd be interesting to see how they move forward with that. Because there's at some point people are going to get into this game brand new, and they're going to need friends on the other side. And how do you know, at some point that they won't be around, or they'll be much higher than they should be price wise, right? Like might not happen for a few years. You know, it's still only 29 cents at the minute, and there's
I think we're a long way from that for like common and uncommon cards. I absolutely think it's that way though with the legendary and super rare cards, because the first chapter had very good legendary and super rare cards and rare cards that are still staples in decks today. And sometimes they might fall out, but then often they, you know, find their way back into the meta. And I definitely think that there's going to come a time where you're not going to be able to find aerial spectacular singers, you know, very easily, and they maybe need to be reprinted.
Yeah. 100. I mean, you can even just look at the price, like on this Be Prepared here, you know, like back up to $10 again. There's a couple just under with shipping, but yeah, at some point it's just like there's no reason why it'll come down. There's nothing without printing more. There's nothing that brings it back down again. So
yeah, and like other than literally on release, cards like Maui are more expensive now than they were when the game came out, which like we were all like, what the heck, these cards are so expensive.
Yeah, maybe it's like a weird little dip there. I don't really understand that over the last few days, but yeah, there was a spike at release, and then December was the reprint, and then it's just trickled back up again. It just shows you the power of reprints with this sort of stuff, right? Like it makes sense. So yeah, but like I say, I don't know. I say solution. I don't necessarily think it needs solving right now. Like I still don't think it's terrible to have to pay $10 for some really good cards. But at some point it's going to need a note.
I would really love if the game, and I don't think it ever will at this point, but I would really love if the game settled to a place where like your good legendaries were $25 and everything else was under that. And maybe like your most expensive legendary was $30, just from an accessibility point of view. Because decks are like just on the cusp of too expensive for me to confidently recommend, you know, you just go get this deck, because some of them are way past that. But even if we take some of the cheaper decks in the format, like I think Ruby Amethyst is actually relatively cheap currently. It's still like $100 or $250 or $200, and like that's about as much as I would feel comfortable telling somebody, even somebody who like really wanted to get into the game, you should go buy this deck, because that's a lot of money for somebody to spend a lot of time. And it's awesome that the meta shifts very frequently, but I would also hate to like tell somebody to go buy a $250 deck and then next week it's, you know, it wouldn't be unplayable, but it might not be optimal. And
I don't know. I think I'm looking at other games. There's only really Pokemon where I feel like most of the games, a few $100 is kind of normal. Because the problem is, if it gets to a point where all the legendaries are like the best legendaries are worth $20, then stores just won't open stuff because there's no point.
They won't open stuff for singles. And I get that. That's why like it's a weird spot, because I think definitely if it was any lower than that, we'd be in an issue. I'd collected all of my Pokemon that I used to play and have this weekend and went and traded it in for some stuff. And it was funny just like going through the cards and looking to see how expensive they were, because most of them are dirt cheap, even staples in the game. Like there's a card in the game, Radiant Greninja, that's seen play ever since it was printed and is like very, very popular. And it was like $5.
Yeah. What was it called?
Radiant Greninja.
I just want to see what its sort of line looks like. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Wow, $5. It's up to like, oh, that's a foil one, but
yeah, but like a normal one you can get for $5 or $6.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a very, very good, like very played card. You can only have one of them in your deck.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And there are other more expensive Pokemon cards when you look at the like big VMAX and EX cards and all that. But
I was just kind of curious as to what its line looked like, you know. That's some real up and downs, like quite drastic up and downs. I wonder what that spike was there. December?
It's probably a regional tournament win, if I had to guess. Because somebody probably won a regional with it and it shot up. But but anyway, to my point, if cards are cheap like that, then it's a little bit of an issue because you don't feel great opening packs, because even if you open, a really rare card, it's not worth a lot of money. So I don't know. It's a hard balance wanting to both have your cards be worth something and enough so that it's exciting when you open them, but also being cheap enough that you can buy the singles and
you can
build
get
a deck without breaking the bank.
It is a difficult line because the problem is if the singles get so cheap that it's not worth cracking boxes for value, then all it means is that you just have to crack boxes trying to find them, because the singles market just isn't there, unfortunately. But then when the singles market isn't there, the price goes up and it just kind of feeds itself, right?
Yeah.
Talking about cracking boxes, we don't normally look outside TCG Player, but I did want to bring this attention to this because it kind of went all over Twitter today. Min-max games, I don't know much about them. I won't necessarily recommend them as a store because I don't know of them. But they have England's booster boxes for 108, which is insane.
Yeah, especially for Into the Inklands, because there's some pretty good stuff.
I feel like this is a relatively reputable source. What I will say as a store manager, please don't think this price is what these cards should be. This is, in my opinion, a store that went way too heavy on this stuff and is now trying to get rid of it to bring in some revenue ready for set 4. I'm pretty sure this store is making about $9 on this box for the $108. Like, I'm pretty sure 90, maybe a little bit more. I'm pretty sure US it's like 97. I think
I remember hearing like $90 or something around there for a box.
Plus shipping and whatever else. So from distro, depending on which distro you're with and whether they do free shipping or not. But like, they ain't making money on these.
Not making money.
They're just they're not. Well, I mean, yes, if you purely look at the numbers for the $110, the $108 they're selling it at, they may be making $12. But it's like the overhead, like it's not even covering the overhead of having this product exist in their store, right? So at this point, it's purely they're getting rid of these to generate some revenue ready for set 4, or just in general they've just got too much of this. They've probably got a bit too hard on it. Set 1 and 2 was a gold rush. Now it's started to settle into people who are genuinely invested in the game and genuinely want products. They've got too much of this around. They're getting rid of it. So if you are looking at Inklands, fill your boots, go and get some of these, but please don't look at this price and think that this is what stuff should be costed at from now on.
It's not that
crazy price
far up on TCG Player either, though.
Yeah, and again, I say for the same reason. I think just people are trying to shift this now because set 4 is not far, right? Like it's around the corner.
I realized today I really need to start saving so that I can buy all the product.
And even outside of Lorcana, there's I feel like there's always big Magic releases coming, but there are bigger Magic releases coming in the future. There's a standard set looks a lot more popular than the last one. There's a Masters set coming that's going to be very expensive. So card game stores are going to be looking for generating quick revenue now to get ready to pay for some of this big stuff. So there's anything I really wanted to point out there?
Not really. It's just interesting to see how cheap it is. Oh, actually, let me look up Beast Tragic Hero. I should see. He hasn't really moved. He's still at $45. But the only reason I'm bringing it up and it's interesting is because I feel like over the past week or two, probably before then, but I think it's catching up to the public. People have been less on this card than they previously have been in regards to being a great card, primarily because of Madame Medusa that can just banish it when it's played. So I was interested with less people running Beast in their deck or getting to a point where they're considering cutting the card out of their deck if the price for it ever dropped, but it's holding up there.
Yeah, it's trickled down a little bit over the last week or two, but but only like by $5 maybe.
Yeah.
I think, like you say, Medusa and Along Came Zeus are the big two reasons as to why it's seen less play, and just because it's just not doing much when it comes down, right? Like if it can stick around for a turn or two, you get like a lot of value out of it. But we've always spoke. I know you, Brandon, has been a big advocate of this. Card, especially in the later game, strong cards, they kind of need to affect the board state when they hit some way or the other, or respect the game state. And this doesn't really, it needs to sit there and survive. And then with two other cards that are both very playable, getting rid of it completely. And also just in general, like a lot of the steel stuff, even just being able to ping this, really takes a lot of value out of it. If it's got a bit of damage on it.
I actually find the more locations are prevalent in the meta, the less bad that feels, because then Beast is kind of a card where like you play it, and if you don't have Along Came Zeus, or you don't have Madame Medusa, or you can't fill your board and play Strength of a Raging Fire or something to get rid of, to completely banish Beast, then you're pretty fine with them actually pinging it, because then Beast gets to hit really hard into something and at least make a trade. But yeah, most of the time you would probably prefer Beast to draw a card than it be pinged. Yeah,
interesting stuff. All right. So last thing we wanted to talk about today then was the 2-game format. What that looks like and how some of the early testing for it has been going. So just a quick overview then for those of you who don't know, it's been announced that for the challenge events, which is the sort of official regional and up level of Lorcana events, they've announced that the Swiss side of the game, the first day of the tournament basically, is going to be run as a 2-game format as opposed to the more traditional best of 3. So you will be paired up with somebody and play 2 games against them, each of you taking a game on the play. You will score a point for each game won, and then a third point if you go 2-0. So if you win both the games, you get an additional point. Those points are then counted up, and that's your Swiss ranking for the day. The news, when it was first announced, I feel like it was relatively positively received originally. Like during the announcement of it, which was part of the Lorecast, it was relatively positively received. There has now been a little bit of testing. There has been a digital tournament, and there has been a few stores that have tried to run it as a tournament. It's a little tricky to do. There's not really any official sort of software for it right now. And we're still not 100% on the rules. Like, I still don't think we have a round time for it officially.
No, not an official one. We know what they we know what Ravensburger tested it at, which is 45 minutes per round. But there's no official. Ravensburger hasn't said, the set championship or the Disney Lorcana challenges will be 45-minute rounds or anything. We don't know what they're going to be. I don't think, unless it says on PPG.
I don't think they have, and I feel like we would have had that by now, or somebody would have shouted at us. By now.
I'm looking now.
I don't. Think
it just says 9-round Swiss, 2-game rounds. Yeah.
So we have to kind of take all of this initial data and initial opinion with a pinch of salt, personally, because it's not really running the format in its truest form, in its correct form. I know, for instance, with the digital focus tournament that happened this weekend, they weren't able to properly implement the dice roll for who goes first or second, and I think that makes quite a big difference personally
I do
this
too.
format.
Players were randomly assigned whether they went first game 1 or game 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but still, that there has been quite a bit of feedback on social media, and how's the best way to word this? Because I don't necessarily want to just sort of poo-poo people's views on this, but I do feel like it's a slight case of squeaky wheels, in as much as I think the negative noises are louder than
I think
most people have been relatively positive about it.
I think so, because even when going through the outline of this topic for this show and just kind of mulling over it and trying to do a little bit of research and see what people who have tested the format have had to say, and specifically competitive players that I know have experience in other card games and other formats,
Mm-hmm.
I actually noticed that the takeaway wasn't as negative as it felt that when everybody was being loud about the 2-game format and how much people were sort of pooping on it. Because I have some stuff listed here. Like, one of the things that people really enjoyed was the shorter rounds. Yeah, pretty much everybody said that they don't think 50 rounds is needed for the 2 games. Pretty much every round, ended early, or, you had 15 minutes or 5 minutes left with your round. So there usually weren't issues there. And that was nice. You can get through more rounds in the day, or there's just less games you have to play. So less brain fatigue.
Yeah, sure.
Mental fatigue. People really enjoyed that there was one game where you were on the play and one game where you were on the draw, and it was even between 2 people. Really felt like it solves that problem of the die roll in a best of 3 or best of 1, where it's just unlucky if you are on the draw, at least in this game. And really, the only thing that I've seen people complain about, which is the thing they've really been in uproar about, is specifically gaining an extra point when you win your 2 games against your opponent. And from what I gathered, the thing that makes that feel bad is maybe like a little bit to do with the fact that you're gaining an extra point, and you can have a player that like goes 2-0 for 4 rounds and then loses 5 rounds, and they have X points, and you have somebody who goes 1-1 all day and like has the same amount of, or has less points than they do. But it seemed more so to do with how tying or winning one game and losing one game in a match felt, because both players feel really bad after winning and losing a round. Way more than they feel more bad than they feel good about winning the extra point, I think. Because I'm trying to think. I'm trying to like just recollect of what everybody else has been saying. Primarily because it just puts so much weight on that 2-0 round, and you're way more incentivized to maybe play a deck that is a bit polarizing in its matchups than you are playing a more consistent deck, because the 1-1 endings feel much worse than the 2-0 endings with the extra point.
And somebody could go 2-0, 2-0, 0-2, 0-2, and somebody else could go 1-1, 1-1, 1-1, 1-1. Both of them have won the same meta games, but the person who came out of the gate strong and randomly was paired against some weaker opponents perhaps has more points, has 6 points as opposed to the 4 of the other player. So I can kind of see that. Yeah.
Which isn't terribly indicative of skill either. And like one of the things that Ravensburger mentioned when explaining the format was how good this format was at pairing you up against equally skilled players. So especially in those early rounds, if just like you said, the first 2 you go 2-0. Theoretically, your first round you could be paired against a weaker opponent and benefit from that, and then you'll be paired against a theoretically stronger opponent in round 2, but maybe not as strong as the other player's round 4 opponent per se.
I mean, you can argue this happens in best of 3 now, you're round one, you're randomly paired against somebody who's much weaker than you, so you go 2-0. Round two, you'll be paired with another 2-0, but they also could be a weaker player who had an even weaker opponent, right? Like you can only go against the results of the round. But what's happening is in this, it should be better, because you're broken into 3 groups of player abilities as opposed to 4 groups of player abilities as opposed to hold
3.
on.
Yeah.
I did do this, didn't I?
Best of 3 after, say, round 1, split 2 into 3 groups.
Yeah, you
have
either
your winners,
won,
your
you
losers,
lost, or
your
you
draw.
drew. Yeah.
And then in 2-game format, you have win-win, win-lose, lose-win, lose-lose. So 4.
Win-win, lose, win-win.
Win-win,
Yeah.
win-lose, lose-win, and lose.
Yes, because they rate, that's it, because they rate the second game slightly higher. So just to catch up with chat then, Vader Lama says, what are the breakers in this format? So in this order then, initially it's points win prizes. Then the first breaker is just games won, so just the number of the games you've won. Next, it's then strength of schedule or opponent win percentage, and then finally it's number of game twos won. The second game of the 2 is rated slightly higher. Chance of that affecting breakers is very low, but earlier on, especially, it will affect seedings. It will affect who you play against, because, like I say, it gives you those 4 groups to split players into, as opposed to the 3. A few others I just wanted to catch up with. Stephen says, how is a dice roll different to a random assignment? So a random assignment, basically, it was randomly choosing a player to go first on game 1, and then the other player went first on game 2, as opposed to what should happen is that a dice roll randomly assigns a winner of the roll, who then gets to choose whether they go first game 1 or game 2. And there is an argument to be said about going first game 2 is possibly more beneficial, but still, the official rules say that you as the winner of the dice roll get to choose which of the games you go first, as opposed to being randomly assigned one of them and then the other going first, if that makes sense. So it's a subtle difference, but the difference is there, I think.
Yeah, I think it matters in that there's player choice in that time, and like there is skill that's involved in knowing when it's better for you to go first in game 1 or go first in game 2, usually based on your deck. So that just instead being given to a random chance on what both players end up being in takes out that part, and like could affect standings if a player ends up choosing incorrectly or chooses correctly more consistently.
IPM Music says the extra point seems like it rewards people who consistently win. For example, in the best of 3, someone who wins 3 rounds at 2-1 in their matches has 9 points, but in the new format they would have 3. I don't think it's fair.
Points.
I don't think it's fair to just ignore the third game of a best of 3 and say that would be the result of a 2-game format. I know that's what people have been doing, is try and work out.
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
I don't, because what you're saying is, it's the third. They didn't win the third game; they'll have just gone 1-1. I don't think that's a fair way to try and cross that data over. Like I think saying that the 2-game format is just the same as the first 2 games of a best of 3 format is not a good way to pass that data, I don't think, honestly.
I think it's pretty close.
Yeah,
because the only difference is that in a best of 3 format, you just, at least in Lorcana, you would always choose to go first in the first game, even though it's blind, because you know that if you win game 1, then you if you win game 1 and it happens to go to a game 3, you'll also go first in the second game, and in that point it matters. But Otherwise, I feel like it's pretty close because one person would, likely one person goes first in one game and then one person goes first in another. Um, I guess it's not always that way because there's definitely games where on the draw you would still win and then you get to go.
But I don't think it's just about how many times you're going first. I think it's the fact that you'll have seen a lot more of your opponent's deck in game 3. You'll have seen a lot more of their play style in game 3. All of that is going to affect the result.
Yeah,
too.
I suppose.
They wouldn't go to a third game if they won 2-0. No, they wouldn't.
But you wouldn't go to it. You wouldn't have a game 3 if with the 2-1 shows that player 1 won game 1 and player 2 won game 2. So then there had to be a game 3 and player 1 game 3. So in the 2-game format, you just ended a 1-1 and you move on.
Yeah.
You don't play the third game.
But what's the best way to make? Like, it probably wouldn't make that much difference. But I'm just saying that perhaps the knowing that there can be a third game might make like the pressure to win that second game isn't as high, knowing there's a third one. Like, obviously you go to win every game you play, but
yes,
I just think if you say, oh well, this guy went 2-1, so just ignore the third game's result and they'll have gone 1-1 in best of 2. I just don't think it's as clear cut as that.
Well, and I think that precisely what you said about in a best of 3, you can lose game 2 and still come back and win game 3 is part of the reason why I actually don't like the extra point in 2-game format, because there's so much weight on your second game, especially if you've won. And if you've already lost your first game, then there's still a lot of weight in that you want to collect a point. But I was under the impression that measuring skill through game wins was something that was important for this format and the way Ravensburger wanted to structure this new format. And I think awarding an extra point for winning 2 out of your 2 games in your match sort of goes against that.
Yes. The fact that they're saying that every game matters, which I think is a very admirable thing to try and push for.
I agree.
But they're doing a bit of an Animal Farm thing. I don't know if you read Animal Farm in school. They're saying every game matters, but some matter more than others.
Way more than others. Like a lot more than others. Like 50% more than other. Every match you 2-0 is one less game you have to win later on.
Yeah.
Theoretically, which I think is huge.
Yeah. So
which isn't that way in best of 3, I don't think. Because in best of 3, you're trying to win your rounds and
because your match is 3 points and a draw is 1 point.
Yeah, you're playing to the match in best of 3. You're not playing to the game. But in 2-game format, you're playing to the game.
Should be playing to the game, yes.
Should be, yeah.
Yeah. So do we think that Googly's idea then they could remove the bonus point and make the number of 2-0s a tiebreaker? That's
what I think would be a good idea. If you want 2-0s to matter, put them somewhere in the tiebreakers, but don't seed people differently because they 2-0'd an opponent and somebody else didn't, especially if their scores are the same. I saw somebody on Twitter today math out a 9-round tournament where somebody, I think it was in the first 5 rounds go 2-0, and then the last 4 rounds go 0-2. So their total game wins and losses
15.
for the day are 10-8. So they won 10 games, lost 8 games,
and got 15 points.
And then there's another player who I don't remember how the math works out, but it's they ended up winning 12 games and losing 6 games that day, but they still end up with less points than the person who went 10-8. It's like the person who won more games has less points than the person who, you know.
But that was like the very simple example I gave earlier. If you go two, say it's 4 rounds, and you go 2-0 for the first 2, and then 0-2 for the second, you've won 4 games, but you get 6 points. But then somebody else can go 2-0 for the first round, and then go 1-1 for the others. They've won 5 games, but they'll get 5 points.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can quite easily do better with less wins with the current standing. Yeah. And if they genuinely want the idea that every game matters, which again I think is correct and I think is good.
Yes. And I think
that this extra point isn't doing that.
No, and I genuinely think if all they did was remove the extra point and just make it, we're just going to count everybody's wins and that's your points, you basically fix all the problems. Like you just do that and everything else is pretty good. And I think aligns with the whole, like, every game matters and aligns with a lot of what they explained in the Lorecast.
So Chris here says, having played the format locally a few times recently, the bonus pint, I'm in for that. I'm British, I'll take a bonus pint. The bonus point is very important for giving people with a bad start a path to victory. Yeah, I mean, it's a catch-up mechanic in some ways, but it's also making people with a good start be able to sit back later into the day.
So, like, I understand what Chris is saying, and that it gives you a sort of catch-up mechanic. What it also does is punish people who bring decks that have maybe only slightly good win rates again, across the board, instead of polarizing decks that say have a higher win rate against a certain number of decks in the competitive pool, but then really bad rates against others, which inherently, like, some people like that, some people don't, because
I think it depends on what you're getting out of the event. As a spectator and commentator, I think that's great.
It's more exciting. Yeah, that's more exciting.
But as somebody who if you were somebody who's going to sit down and actually want to try and win this thing, then it's not as good, though, right?
Because you also have to think about this: if the 2-game format is pairing the best players up very early on, which it should be, then that means, like, in round 4, round 5, theoretically the best players are playing against each other. And so you have to imagine the skill is getting really close depending on what decks they're playing. There's probably, unless somebody chose a really polarizing deck and got matched into a favorable matchup, your win rate goes up or down by a couple percentage points based on if you're on the play or on the draw. And the variance may only be 5% between each players. And the thing that I'm getting at is when you have 2 very good players against each other in the middle of the rounds, and neither of them have a major advantage over the other because of deck choice, they're very likely to tie, or they're very likely to go 1-1. And when you have all of the great players matching up against each other in the middle of the tournament, and then they're all tying out with each other because they're hitting each other so early, and then you have other players that maybe started worse, so they're playing worse players, 2-0ing and shooting past these better players. Like, you get in this weird mix where, like, I don't think we've seen where the best players aren't making top cut at the end of the day, but I think you are seeing situations where really good players are hitting the bubble, and they're not bubbling up because maybe they had an unfavorable matchup, or, like, just variance in a TCG. tied a game that maybe they should have won. So I don't know.
Yeah, it seems to affect the sort of like 10th to 16th placing much more than it does higher up. Yeah. And that's always, however you do it, there is a chance that towards the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how you play, more so that it matters how people around you are playing as to whether or not you make the cut or not. There are numerous times. I mean, I've lost because I'm a middle of the table player, man. I if there's 32 people playing, I'm 16th. Like that's how I roll. And the number of times I've looked at the numbers on a best of 3, round 4 and 5, and thought, I'll do all right here. I'll bubble up, and then 2 or 3 of the top tables take an intentional draw, and it just pushes me down. And I don't know whether this fixes that at all. I feel like it probably doesn't. I feel like there's no way to eventually, at some point, people are going to work the math out well enough to know when they can start IDing. And it is what it is. It's part of the tournament scene, right? So, but yeah, it's interesting. Camille says, as expected this weekend, it was sad to see the top players streaming all hating on the format, even the ones who made top scene 16. Decanto Shirley says, like Decanto, who won that event, was really not happy
with the format at all. He's actually one of the only people that I saw that, like, I found when watching them, as it was happening, they were a little bit more upset, but there's a lot on the line. Like, they're playing, in a large tournament. Yeah. So they're just a bit more emotional. After the fact, I found most of them, even the ones that were in like the top cuts of the tournament, kind of came back and said, really, the biggest gripe is the bonus point. Yeah. But DeCandio is one of the few people that came back and was basically like, I just don't like this format at all. Like, period. Yeah. The bonus point's not nice, but I also just don't like playing in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like, some people are going to feel like that. And there's not much you can do about it, really.
No.
Some people don't like cheese. It's not cheese's fault.
Exactly.
Just how things
some
go,
people
right?
Would just rather play a different format, and that's fine.
Yeah. It was not a good time with the bonus point. No. The only way to hit IDs is to make first and second based on seeding. You'd have to explain that in a bit more detail for me, Franz, I think.
As far as I know right now, in regards of hitting top cut, base, like, depending on where you place, decides if you get to go first in the best of 3. I don't know if I explained that well. It's like if you're top 1 after Swiss, then, or if you're in first place after Swiss, whoever you're paired up against, you get to decide which, like, if you go first in game 1 in your best of 3, which I think is enough to incentivize not intentional drawing, unless you just smashed everybody in the tournament and are so far ahead that you'd still be in first or second, even if you just decided to not play your last round.
I understand now. It's not like that. Yeah, in top cut, then deciding who goes first or second based on seeding in Swiss. Yeah, which is how they do it in most games, right? Like, it's actually surprising that that's specifically not mentioned in the rule set for tournament play in Lorcana at the moment. But yeah, normally, say there was a top 8 cut, the first seed and 8th seed would play each other, and first seed would go first.
Is that not how it is for the regionals?
It's not mentioned anywhere in any tournament document for Lorcana at the moment. It always refers to dice rolling.
No, it's not in any of the tournament documents, but I'm almost sure Rochelle has mentioned it in one of the Discords.
Oh, maybe. I can't read everything on Discords. That's why this needs to be in these documents.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't think there is anything in the documents, but if I remember correctly,
I only know that because somebody at my store asked me about the store champs and said, is that how, because this will be the store champs will be the first thing we've ran that has a top cut, because every other time I have offered to not do it, and everyone has voted to not do it. But with the store champs, I won't. I'll be like, no, you're playing this out. Like there's too much on the line.
Right.
So at the moment, it's normally, I say at the moment, in other games, I shouldn't even say normally. If 8 seed beats 1 seed, would they then assume the 1 seed, or are they still ranked below 2 to 7 for the top 4? You would play it. So 1 to 8 is seeded out. Seed 1 plays seed 8. Seed 1 decides if they go first or not. At the end of that round, the winner of that would be paired against the winner of the 2-7 game. No, it wouldn't. It would be paired against the winner of the 4-5 game. Oh, it's been so long since I've had to worry about it.
I don't know how this works.
It's just so long since I've had to worry about it, because it's like the last time I did it was for a Magic Regionals qualifier like a year and a half ago. Like we're not, like our store isn't particularly focused on competitive play, so it doesn't come up much. But I think you would play the winner of the 4-5 seed. I think I honestly can't remember. Somebody in the chat, I'm sure, will tell you, Jason. But as it stands in Lorcana, I'm pretty sure it's
Franz. I've found the message. Like I found the screenshot where Rochelle says that the plan at the moment is in top cut. Top seed goes first or second if they wanted. No die roll.
Right. That's for challenges.
Oh, is that just for challenges?
No, sorry, I'm asking you.
Oh, I don't know. I'd have to go back and
challenges
see.
Are regionals. Stop getting championships and challenges mixed up.
Yes, you're right. Sorry. Sorry. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at the context of that, but I want to say it was in relationship to challenges. And I want to check now because I don't want to say stuff that's incorrect.
And we know how Rochelle feels about us taking messages on Discord out of context.
I know. I hate it because I do it all the time, but like it's the only way we know some of this stuff right now.
Yeah.
And people keep going, I don't know how this works. And I'm like, I do, but it's only because I spend all day in the Discord. And
I only know because I'm sad. I have no life. That kind of is a big advantage. Yeah, but that's how it goes. At the end of the day, you earned that, right? And as the reason we're talking about this, Franz pointed out in the first place, it's a reason to ID less. It's a reason to intentionally draw less towards the end of the day, because it means it's an advantage going into the top cut. So, yeah. But as it stands, when I'm running the store champs in a whenever it is, it's still a dice roll, because that's what the guidelines say. That's what the tournament document says. So, here we go. What's this? If someone goes 2-0, it's not actually equal to somebody going 1-1 3 times. Win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Win, win. Loss, 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 loss. No, it's not equal. No, they get the same points. Yeah. Oh, that's a quote from Rochelle after the Lorecast. If someone goes 2-0, it's not equal to someone going 1-1 3 times. No, it would be. Well, it totally depends on where everyone else sits on the table, but points wise, it is. And their third breaker, their second game's won would be slightly better, but it so rarely matters. Yeah, it so rarely matters because it's like the fourth breaker. Like it's just not going to be a thing. The chances of somebody having the same points, the same games won, and the same opponent win rate with somebody else is really, really slim. So it's only going to affect the breakers regarding seeding through the day. Not at the end of the day. After 9 rounds of Swiss, if there are 2 people with the same number of points, the same number of games won, and the same opponent win rate, like I'll eat my hat, because it just doesn't happen.
So apologies if you've already talked about this because I didn't hear a lot of what you said. While
that's okay. I was mostly just calling you names.
That's fine. People do that all the time. So the question that was asked was, Rochelle, is there any conversation about the top cut since it goes back to best of 3 and dice roll influencing, which I'm going to assume is the challenge because Rochelle specified today that the set championships are specifically best of 3.
Yes.
With that being said, her response was the plan at the moment. This was March 25th. So I guess it could have changed since then. But the plan at the moment is in top cut, top seed goes first or second if they wanted, no die roll.
Higher seed, goes first or second, yeah. I mean, I think, and again, that's how it's done. That's how it's been done. That's how Grandpa did it. How America did it. Yeah.
Sorry, I really wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think IPA makes good points there. After a few events, we'll have a better understanding, feeling about it. I think the thing is that whatever gets tied in for Atlanta kind of has to be ridden out.
Yeah, that's my big concern.
Yeah,
because I mean, right now people are complaining a lot about the extra point. I'm sure it's going to continue if that's what happens in Atlanta. But once you do it for Atlanta, there's really not undoing it for the next couple months, Well,
really for that season of
for the whole season.
Really. Yeah. Personally, like you can change it for nationals, I think.
Sure.
Without too much fuss.
Sure.
If they can genuinely sort of explain, listen, we've got such larger amounts of data, because let's be honest, they said, we've done testing under NDA, but what's that, 64-person tournaments,
exactly,
128-person tournaments,
what's their skill range?
If they can up these tickets to where they kind of want to be, like a couple of thousand for each of these events, that's going to be a huge swathe of data from and also for there's also something to be said about data taken from an event of volunteers who are there to figure this thing out, and 2,000 people who are trying to win it. Like the feeling and the vibe and the data is going to be different. So I'm sure they've done as much testing as they can, and it's good data to start with. But at some point, having 2,000 sweaties sit there is going to be the best way they get actual real world data on this. So if they then have to say, actually, we've taken all this into account, we are going to have to change it a little bit, I think it's fair to then shift it a little bit for nationals. But you can't have different requirements during different events for the same. What am I trying to say? You know what I mean. You can't have different win requirements for the same level of event.
Yeah, like Atlanta, people are playing to qualify for nationals. People will still be playing to qualify for nationals in Chicago and in Fort Worth and in all the others. And so if you do a format in Atlanta, I think people will be more upset if you then change that format for the rest of them, because the people in Atlanta didn't have the same conditions to make and have an invite to nationals.
I mean, there's already talk of, like, if Atlanta's not able to
expand
AOIs, there's already people who are like, well, that means it's easier to win in Atlanta,
Yeah, exactly. Which makes me wonder if people actually would be a little bit okay, because if they can't increase Atlanta, but they can increase the others, to be like, there weren't that many people at Atlanta. I say weren't that many. There were 500 people at Atlanta. And we did it this way, but for all the other ones, many more people can go. And so we're going to do them all a separate way. If people would actually be open to that, since Atlanta people are already saying, oh, there weren't enough people that could compete, or I didn't get to compete.
Still, I don't know. I still think would be kind of crazy to change it. I don't know.
I do too.
Fatal Armor says PPG points per game coincidence. I think not. I think so. I think that's exactly a coincidence. Actually, I think if we stop saying best of two, I don't know. I ain't saying best of two.
I'm not saying best of two. It's 2 game format.
On the points per game win, it will help change the perspective a little. Perhaps I
also don't think that's the case.
No, I don't think people mind that much, really.
Well, Liam sort of made this argument yesterday on Twitter in that it's a perspective thing, and it's like people are used to playing best of 3, and so people are playing towards the match, and like we need to shift our focus away from being playing the match and rather just playing games and winning games. And that doesn't hold up when you add an extra point to people who 2-0, because then you are playing the match. Like you have to play the match.
Yeah.
You're way more incentivized to 2-0 than you are to just win as much as possible, because the person that wins, that goes 1-1 for 9 rounds, does not have the same score, or for 8 rounds does not have the same score as somebody who went 2-0 for 4 rounds and then lost the next 4 rounds. So I don't think it's just a perspective thing. It's like, it's literally the numbers matter. You in this system, you are still playing towards the match. You're not playing towards the game wins. You have to,
because the match win is so heavily weighted.
Yes,
better than a game win.
So much so, I question if it's actually any better like this than best of 3, because you might rather just play a third game, even if you're on the draw more frequently than you're on the play, so that you have a better chance of winning the match and gaining the 3 points, rather than just walking away with a 1-1 and forced to take the 1 point,
Yeah. I think I didn't mind Liam's take on it, but I think you're right in that I think this third point is the thing that breaks that concept. Although I will say that he used the term schema, and that's a great term that you don't hear much, and it was like, it's good to hear. I love when people squeeze in a random ass words. I'm like, oh, that's I haven't heard that word for a while. That's a good word, good use of that word.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alancer is already being called a cupcake tournament. It's not a phrase I know. Cupcake tournament.
I also dislike people doing that, but people are going to be salty. So
is that cupcake tournament? What is that? Just like,
it's just like, so the best players didn't get in. Yeah. Just a load of random people got in. So the tournament is supposed to be easier. Like, it's going to be easier than the rest of the tournaments, because not everybody that wants to participate can participate. Which a little bit, yeah, but I think generally the top players are still going to be at the top, and like, you're probably not gonna, I don't know, like the people who win Atlanta, who top 8 Atlanta, are probably still very deserving to.
They've still been
512 or 504 other players. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't think it's going to be made that much difference. So cool. All right, we done?
Oh God, I guess that feels abrupt.
12 hours. Yeah, it does.
Oh no, we're not done. We have to open it. We're opening it back.
Oh, okay.
Gotta open it back.
I have one.
There's like no chance I have a mini.
Is this the next pack out of that box that you pulled and enchanted last week?
It's a box.
It this week.
I was handed like, by the time the draft was over, it was just a stack of packs. In sort of contained inside a box. So I'm assuming they all came from the same box, but anyway.
So mine should be better this week.
I really shouldn't have anything crazy this week. If there's another enchanted, I don't know what to tell you. It's scripted. Yeah.
Right. Got round corners on my location.
I do not.
Rules. Voting for Johnny this time. I think that's a good shout.
I feel like you have to this time.
I got a Louis.
Okay. Got a Milo.
Okay.
I'm doing it the wrong way.
Robin Hood.
That's pretty good. Magic Broom.
I think I take the Robin Hood so far.
Camera's backwards.
Kakamura. For drafting, I'm taking this guy.
Yeah, Kakamura's pretty good.
For
drafting,
he's the one that gets a bit bigger if he's on a location. No, so far these are both pretty bad. Oh, is that the broom you got?
Yeah, that's the one I got.
Okay, Billy Bones. I draft Billy
Bones. Not terrible. I'm drafting Mr. Snoops over this.
I think I'm taking Snoops. First uncommon. Oh,
I'm taking Smee. Heck yeah.
No, in that one all day long.
Yeah.
Second one.
Jolly Roger.
Slightly. I don't remember what he does. If you have a character named
He's an
Peter Pan,
evasive.
no. Oh, he's always evasive. Oh,
I think
okay.
so, yeah.
I'd probably take an evasive.
It's not too bad.
4-3, yeah.
How far I'll go? This is a terrible draft pack so far.
How far it goes probably wins over hat.
But, yeah, probably.
Yeah, you're not playing any other items.
No, not intentionally.
Oh, first rare. I think you win that one.
Simba's pretty good, yeah.
Yeah, I think Simba
take that
Simba gets picked there. Second
All
one.
right.
Oh, I got a Pongo.
Got a rare Pride Lands.
Pride Lands.
I think Pongo wins that one.
Do you reckon? 3-2.
Yeah, it's like draw.
I suppose you are taking more characters. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Common.
I don't know what mine is. Not enchanted.
No.
Jetsam.
Common airfoil.
Oh, I thought, do you know what? I saw green and was like, oh my God, if he gets a Flotsam, this is so cool.
Nope. Just an airfoil.
I think, they were.
That was
great.
a really bad pack. Both of us got, oh no, you got a super rare.
I think, did I? Oh yeah, Pongo is a super rare. I just don't think of him because he's on the starter deck and you so easily get. I think Smee. I think I'd probably take Smee over anything else in that pack for me.
I'm looking through my pack again. I think it's just Simba. Yeah.
I think
that's it. There's nothing.
3
really
quests there is pretty solid.
Here.
That's it. I'm out. That's my more packs next week.
Especially if I have 4 more packs.
I'll pick some up. I wish Airfoil was more fleshed out. Action matters decks. I think
I'm sure it'll get there one day.
Yeah, it's it's a slow burner, right? Like even from set 1, it's had stuff telegraphed, but it just isn't there. I really want to see the Challenge Matters deck be a thing in 4. I really do.
Yeah. I've seen people. I don't think it has kicked off at all, but recently I've seen some people running Pete. Like I think it was an Emerald Steel Pete Action Matters deck, and they were running airfoil in the deck to draw some cards.
Yeah, who was it? Somebody shared a picture of it, and I was like, "You made me go and read what airfoil did."
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I forget when it happened though.
Yeah, that's good. Awesome. All right, so what does your week in ink look like?
Oh, I have a $5 constructed tournament tomorrow at League, which I think is gonna be fun.
So
I've been practicing constructed a bunch.
$5 in and pays out some packs, or
I think it's paying out store credit.
Okay.
Store credit or like maybe pack per win or something. And I think it's only 3 rounds. I don't think it really matters who shows up. Just 3 round Swiss.
It's nice to.
So I'm excited about that.
I think it's nice just to play like in a competitive environment. That's still pretty light, isn't it? But
Well, I really like those the like low stakes competitive environments. It's like I expect people to bring a good deck.
Yeah.
And we're technically paying money to get in, and there's going to be like prizing.
Yeah.
But it's not so hardcore that
doesn't really matter.
No, like if I go 0-3 tomorrow, I'm not really upset about it,
Yeah, it's $5, whatever, and you got some games in. Yeah, no, that's good fun. What have we got going on? We had a draft at the weekend, which was really good fun. I only saw a little bit of it, but I kind of kept an eye on it on Melee all day. Interestingly, every single draft we've ever ran, one person has won it. The same person.
Oh, yeah, the same person.
Sorry. Just a very good drafter. He didn't play this weekend, wasn't able to play. So without sounding horrible, that was kind of nice that somebody else won the draft, right?
Sure, yeah, of course.
The player who won is a very good player. And again, probably if I had put my money on somebody, I would have probably picked him to win it. But the rest of the table, I'd have lost the house if I'd have betted up, because it was like completely flipped. Players that are super new to the game. One guy's never drafted before in his life, came third, just absolutely crazy list. And it was so good to see. Like, it's so awesome just to see some variation there, So
it's fun to see that. Myself and a bunch of people locally showed up a weekend or two ago just to play constructed games and test. And there's usually this couple that comes in. Their names are Casey and Hannah. And Hannah is very, very casual. She, I think, comes partially because it's like Casey comes as well, but like they both really like Lorcana. and she was just playing a Amber Amethyst hyper aggro deck. And the whole time was like, I haven't played Lorcana in a really long time, so we're just going to play whatever, like very nonchalant. She beat everybody, like creamed everybody that entire day. Like, I don't think anyone took a game off of her. And it's so funny to see, and like so fun and cool to see, players who maybe even don't think themselves as being capable of doing that, being able to do that.
Just nobody was ready for a super aggro.
Yeah. It was just like couldn't keep up.
That's awesome. That's great to see. Cool. Hyper aggro, baby. There he is. You're going to go say the words, and
Lee Barbs
is right there.
Shows up.
We love it. We love aggro. I'm the same. I'm loving aggro. I'm playing Emerald Amethyst at the minute and like doing really well with it. Just having a lot of fun with it. Just I say hyper aggro. It's not. It's a bit more tempo-y, but I just love putting loads of things down and turn them sideways really quickly. It's great fun.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Do we have to go over all where people can follow us?
No, my everything's changed now. I don't think my Instagram changed. But
how did you have to like apply for that or what? Like, how did that work?
What do you mean?
Sorry, for those who don't know, your Twitter handle is now just B-Squared24. You haven't got
it's just B-Squared24. It doesn't have YT on the end. It's just B-Squared24.
But I'm assuming you had YT on the end of it because somebody else had B-Squared24.
Yeah.
So how did you get it?
I had that person change it.
Did you pay?
No.
Just got in touch and were like, "Do you know who I am?"
They know who I am because it was me. It was my personal account.
I think it.
I just hadn't done that.
Oh right, okay.
I just hadn't done it.
Because I have not on Twitter, but in the past I've been able to apply and be like, "Look, I want this handle," and somebody's got it, but they haven't used it for years. And you can get it.
Yeah.
I was wondering if that was a thing on Twitter because the reason I say is because at the Inkwell hasn't tweeted since 2019.
Oh really?
I want it.
Here's the thing though. So I've seen scenarios. I'm sure a lot of people know who like Ninja is, Tyler Blevins, like the Fortnite guy. He tried to get the Ninja tag very early in his career before he really exploded, and tried really hard to message and request and whatever the person who had the tag because they were never active on Twitter or whatever he was trying to do. And he ended up making it worse because every time he would tag the person or message them, they would open up their phone or like log into their account to see the notification and then ignore it and like browse for a minute and then not touch it for months.
Right.
And because the person was been active because they kept being tagged, they couldn't take the name from them or anything. So it was this really funny thing where like you wanted it really bad, so you were tagging them, but you're actually making it worse for yourself.
So what I'm not going to do is message the Inkwell and be like, "Come on."
Yeah, don't try to contact them at all. You might be making it worse.
That's interesting. Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, I think that's everything else then. Unless you want to say anything, we're all done. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for bearing with us. Welcome to people who have watched us on Twitter. That was a thing.
Yeah, we're multi-streaming now.
We were on Twitter, and we've had one viewer on Twitch all night, which I imagine is probably some sort of bot. Because I don't even know what my Twitter page looks like. So, but everyone else, and our regulars here on YouTube, we appreciate you being here.
Very much so.
Thanks very much for watching. We'll be back next week, maybe with a guest. We'll see. We need some news. We need something to happen this week.
Yeah.
Do we think we get some card reveals?
I don't think so.
I won't mind something.
I mean, I'd love something. I just don't. I'm not
some news on challenges. I think we might see this week. I think at some point.
Yeah, maybe they'll give us dates on challenges, or they'll say, "Hey, we either could or couldn't expand."
Well, the Chicago date at the minute for tickets still says April 7th, which is Sunday, but I'm pretty sure that's been told that that's a placeholder. So at some point that has to change this week or go ahead. So we'll have at least that to talk about.
Yeah.
Are you going to try if it is a thing? Are you going to try for Chicago on Sunday?
Probably. There's too many of my content creator and Lorcana friends that can make Chicago for me to not try to make it. It's
Yeah,
probably the
it's
one that I'll see everybody at. So I wasn't planning on going,
Mhm.
but I have like some flight points or whatever that I can use to fly instead of having to save up extra money and pay. So I'm going to try if I can. If I don't get a ticket, I'm probably not going unless I get asked to go by Ravensburger for whatever reason, but I don't know that that's going to happen either. I have no reason to think it will. So, unless I don't get a ticket, if I don't get a ticket, I'm probably not going. If I do get a ticket, I'm going to try to.
Yeah, it's a long trip just to kind of hang out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. People in the chat saying that they have said that date is a placeholder and is unofficial.
Okay.
Yeah. I was aware of that, but who knows, right? So something's got to happen this week, because what they won't let happen, what they shouldn't let happen, is it get to the 7th.
Yeah.
With no
then
mention of it.
nothing happened.
Yeah, like that's so something's got to happen. We hope. Awesome. All right. Thanks so much for watching, folks. Until next week in ink.
That was This Week in Ink.